Phoenix Nights. Chapter 1560. The power of a great saint was unstoppable. The divine city in the sky came crashing down, causing the entire spirit mountain to shake. Terrifying cracks appeared on the huge body of the mountain. The old antiques of the Lee family in the wilderness could see that this place was extraordinary. They wanted to take over this place and destroy the entire spiritual mountain so that the divine city of the Lee family could take its place. One had to know that below the spiritual mountain was the ancestral vein of the entire West Earth. Spiritual energy gathered here. It was definitely a holy land suitable for cultivators to live in. The Lee family wanted to take this holy land for themselves. Damn it! The 3 Buddhist elders and the 4 divine monks were shocked to the extreme. Buddhism had encountered an unprecedented calamity. Someone actually wanted to take over the West Earth of Buddhism. A great saint formation was in operation, sealing the entire heaven and earth. Without the protection of a supreme Buddhist weapon, the Buddhists in the human world would be completely suppressed. The terrifying pressure from the ancient city made all the Buddhist disciples on the spiritual mountain unable to straighten their backs, making it impossible for them to escape. If it wasn't for the protection of the great mountain protecting formation, all the Buddhist disciples on the spiritual mountain would have been killed by now. The Buddhist disciples who could cultivate on the spiritual mountain were all elites of the West Earth. If the spiritual mountain was really suppressed by the divine city, the losses of the Buddhists would be incalculable. Buddhist Lord Qinglian would probably vomit blood when he returned. Rumble! The ancient city pressed down from the sky. Billions of formation runes circled around it. The terrifying power of a great saint caused the void below to crack. This was definitely a disaster for the Buddhists. At this time, no one was optimistic about the Buddhists. However, just as the divine city was about to suppress the spiritual mountain, a peaceful Buddhist power suddenly came from the Buddhist palace on the spiritual mountain. The sound of chanting rang out in the void, as if a supreme Buddha was chanting supreme sutras. Everyone's mind was involuntarily attracted by this faintly discernible chanting. Roar! A furious roar resounded between heaven and earth. Some people were instantly alerted. The Buddhists had a good method. This Buddhist chant actually made people want to convert. The Buddhist voice caused all the experts to feel a sense of closeness and yearning for Buddhism in their hearts. If they couldn't resist it, they would most likely be enlightened and become a believer of the ancient Buddhist Lord. However, a powerhouse who could cultivate to become an almighty had an incomparably firm will. How could a Buddhist voice cause them to lose control of their state of mind? The Buddha's voice of salvation is here? The faces of the 3 Buddhist elders became a little strange. What's going on? Why would the Buddhist chant of salvation ring out at this time? The 4 divine monks of the Buddhist sects were also extremely shocked. They had no idea why such a Buddhist voice would be heard at this time. In the Buddhist palace at the peak of the spiritual mountain, it was as if a supreme Buddha was preaching. The great Tao was resonating. Auspicious light descended from the sky, and golden lotuses surged out from the earth. An ethereal Buddhist voice rang out, and an auspicious yet vast power actually blocked the ancient human city that was pressing down. Above the spirit mountain, a series of Buddhist seals appeared indistinctly. The Buddhist seal was the embodiment of the supreme Buddhist path comprehended by the ancient Buddhist masters. It was a kind of immortal trace of the great Tao. Once the Buddhist seal appeared, even the power of the great saint level would be blocked. What? The big Baldy here actually has an immortal inheritance. Is this the power of the extreme Tao? A few old voices came from the ancient human city. The old-timers of the Lee clan were all crying out in surprise. The Buddhist sects of the mortal world actually had the protection of the extreme Tao. The Buddhist power coming from the Buddhist palace at the top of the spirit mountain didn't contain a shred of killing intent. It wasn't an offensive power, but it was vast and boundless, protecting the entire spirit mountain under its protection. In the Buddhist palace at the top of the spirit mountain, the Buddhist platform was currently emitting rays of Buddhist light. The aura of the extreme Tao swirled around it. This was an immortal mark left behind by the ancient Buddhist masters. Legend had it that the ancient Buddhist masters had once preached the Tao on the spirit mountain of the West. At the peak of the mountain, they had left behind an immortal platform that had become the supreme treasure of the Buddhist sects of the mortal world. This platform could emit the voice of salvation, guiding people toward kindness and making them want to convert to the Buddhist sections. According to legend, if the voice of salvation came from the mouth of the ancient Buddhist masters, even the most terrifying demons in the world would be purified and converted to the Buddhist sections. "Let's go!" someone shouted from within the ancient city. Rumbling sounds could be heard as the enormous city once more rose up into the sky. The Li clan's old-timers knew that they couldn't keep the spirit mountain under control. Knowing that they couldn't do anything, they decisively retreated. Rumble! Heaven and earth shook as the enormous city flew off into the distance. At the same time, the terrifying pressure from the ancient city faded away. At this point, the Li clan needed to find a place to settle down. By this time, quite a few of the old-timers from the wildlands had emerged from the spatial passageway, and their auras were so intense that they could cause anyone's heart to palpitate. Rumble! The three elders wielding the sacred weapons of the Buddhist schools made their moves. A ball of Buddhist fire flew out of one of the elders' hands and turned into a transparent barrier of light that enveloped the group of old fogies in the sky. Saint-level Buddhist power rippled out in all directions. "This bastard!" The wildlands old-timers' expressions flickered. After all, these people were using Buddhist sage weapons. Humph! A green-robed figure stepped forward and slashed his sword at the incoming Buddhist light, causing a powerful draconic energy to erupt from the sword. Rumble! The sword light slammed into the Buddhist light shield, and the entire void was torn asunder. The green-robed figure was sent flying backward, but the Buddhist elder was also forced back a dozen paces. "A sage item?" The three Buddhist elders were visibly moved. The sword in that person's hand was actually a sage weapon, and the sword energy it emanated was strong enough to contend with Buddhist sage weapons. Taoist Long! When the wildlands old-timers got a clear look at the green-robed figure, they were shocked. It was a middle-aged man in green, but he wasn't actually human. This was a greater demon that had taken human form. Clang! The sound of a bell rang out, and a bronze bell hovering above the head of one of the Buddhist elders emitted a terrifying sound that transformed into an attack that shot toward Taoist Long. Buzz! The holy sword vibrated and ripples of sword waves radiated from the sword, blocking all the attacking power of the Buddha's voice. Moreover, Taoist Long directly attacked the Buddha elder who held the Buddha bell. Swish! A beam of green swordlight tore through the void, emanating terrifying fluctuations of sword energy as it slashed toward the Buddhist elder. Saint-level sword energy was something that even a Buddhist elder with a Buddhist sage weapon would be moved. Bam! The Buddhist elder with the devil-subduing Vajra scepter made his move, and a beam of golden light transformed into a golden dragon that shot out from his hand. Boundless Buddhist power slammed into the green sword light. Chapter 1561. Taoist Long was incomparably domineering. He was actually challenging the three Buddhist elders on his own. His holy sword radiated boundless sword light that completely enveloped the three Buddhist elders. Incredible! The wildlands old-timers were all shocked. Had Taoist Long gone crazy? Buzz! The holy sword vibrated repeatedly, and endless draconic energy transformed into destructive swordlight that soared into the heavens and split the earth. It was a sword that could destroy all divine abilities. Clang! The Buddhist bell rang out, and sound waves visible to the naked eye spread out from it. Buddhist chants transformed into offensive techniques that were impossible to defend against. The devil-subduing Vajra pestle transformed into a powerful golden dragon that constantly slammed into the sword light. The Buddha light glass shield could change its size. When it was big, it could contain all of heaven and earth. When it was small, it was the size of a fist, and the Buddhist elder held it in his hand. In the end, 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. Taoist Long was quickly forced to retreat. Clang! A mighty sound wave arrived and directly sent Taoist Long flying thousands of feet away. A trace of blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. Although his divine sword was powerful, it was still suppressed by the 3 Buddhist elders. Do you monks only know how to gang up on each other? Taoist Long said coldly, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth. His gaze was like cold lightning as he looked at the three Buddhist elders. The three Buddhist elders didn't say anything, and simply pressed forward with Buddhist weapons in hand. Humph! Suddenly, a cold snort rang out from the spatial passageway in the distance. A figure walked out from the spatial passageway and walked towards the battlefield. In just 2 steps, that person was already very close to him. That's... The Wildlands old-timers' expressions flickered as soon as they saw who it was, and some of them immediately fled. It was a middle-aged man with a divine sword strapped to his back. He wasn't very tall, but he gave off a very oppressive feeling. Tyrannical Shin King! Taoist Long's expression flickered as soon as he saw the middle-aged man. He was an incomparably powerful existence who had single-handedly exterminated the Wildlands ghost race. Buzz! Batian Shin King didn't say anything and directly attacked the three Buddha elders. It was just a slap, but it made the three Buddha elders feel great pressure. The three Buddhist elders shook the Buddhist holy weapons in their hands at the same time, resolving the powerful palm force. Buzz! The demon-subduing Vajra scepter vibrated, transforming into a golden dragon that soared into the sky, charging towards Ba Tian Shin King. A terrifying saint-tier power radiated from the golden dragon, shaking the heavens. Clang! Shin King of the heavens pulled out the sword on his back and slashed forward. It seemed like a casual slash, but it followed the trajectory of the great Tao. This was the Overlord's sword, a great sage sword. There were ancient patterns engraved on it, and it was left behind by an unrivaled overlord in the Wildlands. The Overlord's sword contained the great sage's great Tao seal. Without any suspense, the demon-subduing Vajra scepter was sent flying by the Overlord's sword. A sword scar appeared on the scepter. The subduing devil Vajra staff was almost cut into 2 pieces by the sword. What? The Buddhist elder who wielded the demon-subduing Vajra scepter was shocked. He never thought that there would be a powerful sword in this world that could cut a Buddhist holy weapon. A sword that could injure a holy weapon, could it be a great sage weapon? The 3 Buddhist elders all retreated, and the demon-subduing Vajra scepter flew back to the Buddhist elder. Its light dimmed a lot, and the Buddhist holy seal contained within it suffered a great impact. Sky Tyrant Divine Emperor displayed an invincible and powerful battle prowess, shocking everyone. At this time, a terrifying aura came from the spatial passageway, and another powerful force crossed over. Moreover, it was different this time. The aura coming from the spatial passageway had a fluctuation that caused everything in the world to tremble. Those guys finally can't stand it anymore. Ba Tian Shin King's attention was attracted over. The fluctuation coming from the spatial passageway was vast and boundless. The entire spatial passageway was shaking as if it was about to collapse. The spatial passageway that even a saint-tier power couldn't shake was actually shaken at this time. To be able to shake the formation pattern created by a quasi-supreme expert, this power was definitely the power of the extreme Tao. The billions of lives in the entire West Earth could feel this power. Even the experts who had cultivated successfully felt their souls tremble at this moment. Everyone fell from the sky to the ground, and even the old antiques from the wilderness couldn't stand up. In front of the power of the extreme Tao, everything else was as weak as an ant. The 3 Buddhist elders used their Buddhist holy weapons to protect themselves and returned to the Spirit Mountain. The 4 divine monks also landed on the ground, pressed down by the mighty pressure coming from the spatial passageway. They were all almighty existences, but at this time, they were completely intimidated by the power of the extreme Tao. Only Ba Tian Shin King could barely stand. Soon, a huge mountain appeared in the spatial passageway. Beast Emperor Mountain! The ancient beast of Beast Emperor Mountain is here! Although the power of the extreme Tao had been restrained as much as possible, it was still enough to shock the 9 heavens and 10 earths. The ancient beast of Beast Emperor Mountain was controlling the power of the extreme Tao. If it wasn't controlled, the spatial passageway would probably be destroyed. What? All the experts of the Buddhist sects were in despair. The other party actually had a holy weapon of the extreme Tao. How could they fight? The appearance of Beast Emperor Mountain made the disciples of the Buddhist sects lose all hope. Rumble! The shadow of a huge beast appeared above Beast Emperor Mountain. This was the power of the extreme Tao ancient Beast Emperor. This kind of power was enough to contend against the holy weapon of the extreme Tao. Bang! Just when the disciples of the Buddhist sects were in complete despair, the void above the spirit mountain suddenly collapsed. A ray of Buddhist light broke through the void and turned into a golden door. It fixed itself in the void and opened up a spatial passageway. Dong! The sound of a bell rang out from the golden door, resonating with the entire heaven and earth. The sound of the bell quickly spread throughout the West Earth, and even out of the West Earth. What's going on? Someone is using the power of the extreme Tao. A voice came from the ghost palace of Plentiful City. The power of the extreme Tao has finally appeared. A sigh came from the devil region of the far north. In some forbidden areas of the mortal world, supreme existences were alarmed. Everyone felt that a great upheaval was about to occur in West Earth. The power of the extreme Tao was fighting. In the sky above Spirit Mountain, when the Beast Emperor Mountain appeared between heaven and earth, a figure also rushed out from the golden door. Gu Fei and He Tian could communicate between the two worlds. So could Heavenly Monk Dharma because they had the orthodox receiving grand formation, allowing them to freely enter and exit the Heavenly Buddha path. The commotion caused by Mahakala was too huge. There was no way that Heavenly Monk Dharma did not know about it. Heavenly Monk Dharma would never allow the Buddhist sect in the mortal world to be destroyed. Please share. Chapter 1562. Inside the Heavenly Buddha Tao sect, there was a grand welcoming array that allowed all Buddhist disciples to freely enter and exit the Heavenly Buddha Tao sect. Although Erebus had also laid down a grand welcoming array that allowed people to cross over, the grand welcoming array on Mount Shumi was the genuine one, while Erebus's was a counterfeit. Rumble! At the most critical moment for the Buddhist sect, the void above the holy mountain suddenly trembled. A Buddhist light rushed out from the void, and endless Buddhist energy condensed into a golden door. A powerful wave of energy spread out from the golden door, and a figure appeared behind it. A tall monk walked out of the door. This is... Everyone was incomparably shocked. This was a monk wearing a very old kasaya. Although the kasaya on this monk's body was very old, it didn't have a trace of damage. A powerful and boundless aura spread out from the monk's body. If Gu Fei and He Tian were here, they would definitely recognize this monk. This monk was the one who schemed against them in the Eternal Buddha Palace, Heavenly Monk Fa Tian. This was a quasi-saint of Buddhist sect, so powerful that even Gu Fei and He Tian almost died in his hands. You bunch of unorthodox demons, retreat, or this Buddha will purify all of you. Heavenly Monk Fa Tian's voice spread through the sky and the earth. Who do you think you are? Do you think you are the Eternal Buddha Lord? A sneer came from the extreme Tao Beast Emperor Palace on the Beast Emperor Mountain. The Emperor of the Beast Emperor Palace was in charge of the extreme Tao Beast Emperor's immortal inheritance. The orthodoxy of the extreme Tao Beast Emperor was not necessarily weaker than the orthodoxy of the Eternal Buddha Lord. Don't tell me you want to use the power of the extreme Tao in the mortal world? Heavenly Monk Fa Tian said indifferently. The water in the mortal world was very deep, and the power of the extreme Tao was a taboo in the mortal world. Even in the Heavenly Buddha sect, the power of the extreme Tao was only a confrontation, and it did not show its true power. After all, they had just come out from the Heavenly Buddha sect, and they did not know anything about the mortal world. They did not know if there were any saints in the mortal world. If he rashly used the power of the extreme Tao and attracted an extreme Tao supremacy, then he would be in big trouble. Although the King of Beasts really wanted to kill Heavenly Monk Fa Tian, he also had a Buddhist weapon of the extreme Tao. The result of a battle of extreme Tao's power would definitely be horrifying. No one was willing to go that far until the very last moment. Rumble! Out of everyone's expectations, the Beast Emperor Mountain actually smashed towards Heavenly Monk Dharma. The aura of the extreme Tao filled the air, and the entire world seemed like it was about to be destroyed. He didn't dare to underestimate the person in front of him. Heavenly Tyrant Shin King didn't say anything. He just looked at Heavenly Monk Fa Tian indifferently, but one of his hands was already pressed on the hilt of the Overlord's sword. The Overlord's sword was a great saint weapon. Even Heavenly Monk Fa Tian felt a great sense of danger when he was locked on by Heavenly Tyrant Shin King's sword chi. It was as if he would be cut in half by the divine sword in the next moment. Heavenly Monk Fa Tian needed time to prepare to use the supreme Buddhist weapon, but Heavenly Tyrant Shin King's speed of drawing the sword was definitely faster than him. Before the supreme Buddhist weapon could be activated, Heavenly Monk Fa Tian's sword would have already killed him. Heavenly Tyrant Shin King was definitely a dangerous person. Heavenly Monk Fa Tian didn't dare to act rashly. The Golden War Dragon's fighting spirit was like a rainbow. It actually wanted to rush forward and fight with Heavenly Tyrant Shin King. There's no need for that. I can't wait for those fellows from the Heavenly Buddha sect to come out as soon as possible, Heavenly Monk Fa Tian said. His words weren't without reason. Those fellows from the savage world had already turned the entire Heavenly Buddha sect into a foul atmosphere. If they wanted to restore their former glory, they would need to spend a lot of time and effort. Great Monk, are you looking for me? Suddenly, a voice rang out from the red spatial passageway. Then, a figure with a smile on his face walked out of the red spatial passageway. When Heavenly Monk Fa Tian saw this person, his eyes immediately lit up. Hurry up and hand that thing over. Heavenly Monk Fa Tian stretched his hand towards that person. Chapter 1563. Hurry up and hand that thing over. The person who came out from the red spatial passage caused even the quasi-saint Great Monk Fa Tian's expression to change, so he directly demanded something from that person. I don't know what you're talking about. Gu Fei's face was indifferent as he directly refused. What a joke. How could he hand over something that he had already obtained? He vaguely knew that this Great Monk Fa Tian probably wanted that ancient monument. You're still playing dumb. Then don't blame me for being impolite. Great Monk Fa Tian's face was incomparably solemn. Buddhist power surged from his body and a layer of Buddhist light emerged from his body. In the third layer of Buddhist palace, there was a great secret of heaven and earth. It was a desolate world, and at the origin of that desolate world, there was the 9 nether yellow springs. This was a secret that only 1 or 2 of the most powerful Buddhists in the Heavenly Buddhist sect knew about, and Great Monk Fa Tian was one of them. He learned about this great secret from the most ancient scriptures of the Buddhist sect, so he found the ancient monastic robe and went to that place. Under the protection of the Millennium Buddhist robe, Great Monk Fa Tian actually managed to enter that legendary place, but to his disappointment, that thing was actually taken away by someone else. The only people who could enter that place and take away that thing were Gu Fei and He Tian. Great Monk Fa Tian pressed towards Gu Fei. The aura of a quasi-saint caused the void to tremble. He wanted to use absolute power to suppress Gu Fei. Shin King Ba Tian naturally wouldn't let Great Monk Fa Tian attack Gu Fei. He was about to draw his sword, but at this time, Gu Fei transmitted his voice to him. Shin King, let me do it! Gu Fei was eager to have a real fight with the quasi-saint. His cultivation had already reached the peak of the 5th heavenly layer, and he could step into the 6th heavenly layer at any time. Batian Shin King glanced at Gu Fei and said, Then be careful. Shin King of the human race retreated, allowing Gu Fei to fight against Great Monk Fa Tian. However, Shin King was watching from the side. As long as Gu Fei was in danger, he would immediately make a move. You're courting death. When Great Monk Fa Tian saw that Gu Fei wanted to challenge him, he couldn't help but feel surprised. Could it be that this guy is tired of living and wants to be saved by me as soon as possible? Wearing that old kasaya, he was already in an invincible position. Boom! Just at this moment, the entire heaven and earth suddenly shook. A shocking battle intent erupted from Gu Fei's body. The powerful aura caused the void to tremble. The power displayed by Gu Fei had shocked even Fa Tian, as he had never expected that Gu Fei's cultivation base would actually rise to such a level. Bang! Gu Fei didn't say anything unnecessary. He directly used his fist to do the talking. As soon as he came up, he punched towards Fa Tian. Divine patterns of the Great Path appeared on his fist, intertwining with the power of the Great Path. Great Buddha Palm. Fa Tian stretched out his right hand and pressed forward. Endless Buddhist power condensed in his hand, and then, a Buddha palm rushed out from his hand. Rumble! Countless Buddhist patterns intertwined, as if a Buddha saint was slapping a palm at Gu Fei. In the palm of the great Buddha palm, there was a Buddhist seal that appeared. The Buddhist patterns and the Buddhist seal activated the power of the heavenly Buddha, and this palm was enough to destroy everything. Boom! With a loud bang, Gu Fei's fist collided with Fa Tian's great Buddha palm. The two peerless and powerful forces instantly shattered the void, causing chaotic qi to rush out. The void within a radius of several thousand zhang instantly collapsed, leaving nothing behind. This was the result of both sides restraining their strength. Otherwise, when these two peerless and powerful forces collided, it would turn the void within a radius of 10,000 zhang into chaos. How is this possible? Fa Tian felt a strong force coming from the front, causing him to involuntarily take 5 or 6 steps back. His body swayed continuously. On the other hand, Gu Fei only took 3 steps back before he stabilized his body and continued to attack Fa Tian. Buzz! A sword cry resounded through the 9 heavens. A sword shadow rushed out from between Gu Fei's eyebrows and pierced towards Fa Tian, who was retreating. This is... The sword shadow arrived in front of him in an instant. This startled great monk Fa Tian. Although it was just a sword shadow, it contained a dreadful power. If he was hit by this sword shadow, even Fa Tian would be severely injured. The spectators were extremely shocked. Gu Fei was actually able to force Fa Tian to retreat with just one move. Such combat power was too heaven-defying. The legendary primordial Dao sword. Shin Qing's eyes lit up like torches. He recognized this great technique. It was a legendary technique created by the Supreme Dao Ancestor, and it was the embodiment of the great Dao. Fa Tian felt the danger, and the old kasaya on his body flew up, covering him within it. A scene that shocked Gu Fei appeared. The seemingly old kasaya actually blocked his attack, and the primordial Dao sword was blocked. What kind of kasaya is this? Gu Fei was in disbelief. It was just a seemingly old kasaya, but it was able to block his primordial Dao sword. This was unbelievable. Fortunately, I have this kasaya. Otherwise, I would really be in danger. Fa Tian secretly wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Gu Fei's primordial Dao sword was so fast that he couldn't dodge it completely. Fortunately, he had the kasaya to block it. Heaven Ascension! With a loud shout, Gu Fei soared into the sky, and a peerlessly powerful aura suddenly rushed out of his body. Around him, there seemed to be countless pure white feathers fluttering. He used 2 secret techniques of the immortal Dao at the same time. The Heaven Ascension secret technique gave him an immortal body, and his life force was extremely vigorous. Any serious injury would be healed by this secret technique. As for the Heaven Ascension secret technique, it instantly increased his combat power by 10 times. What? Everyone who saw this scene was extremely shocked. Gu Fei's combat power was already heaven-defying, but now it increased by 10 times. What kind of concept was this? Too strong. Could this be one of the 9 secrets of the immortal Dao, the Heaven Ascension secret technique? Shin Qing Batian and Fa Tian were both very knowledgeable, and the changes in Gu Fei's body caused their hearts to tremble. At this moment, Gu Fei's combat power was monstrous. Eat my fist. Gu Fei's fist shone with dazzling divine light, and countless Dao patterns coiled around his fists, interweaving into a supreme power of the great Dao that blasted towards Fa Tian. One yin and one yang, the 2 powers intertwined as if they were manifesting the reincarnation of heaven and earth. A Dao diagram of yin and yang emerged behind Gu Fei. This was a supreme battle technique, the yin-yang reincarnation fist. Friends who wanted to communicate with Liang San, please join the group 274673223. Chapter 1564. Rumble! Gu Fei's fists turned into two extremes of yin and yang. The power of yin and yang intertwined with each other, transforming into primal chaos. The two fists caused the heaven and earth to tremble. Even Heavenly Monk Fa Tian's expression changed. Net. What? When Heavenly Monk Fa Tian felt the invincible fist intent from Gu Fei, he was shocked to the extreme. Could this guy be the reincarnation of a martial ancestor? How could he have cultivated to such a level? The Buddhist sect could be said to be the oldest sect in the heaven and earth. It had existed since the ancient times. Legend has it that it was founded by the Buddhist Lord. This kind of ancient inheritance contained a large number of ancient books. These books were incomparably precious. Some of them even contained all sorts of great secrets of the ancient times. Existences like Heavenly Monk Fa Tian naturally had access to these ancient books. The ancient books of the Buddhist sect naturally had records of the extreme Tao of the ancient times. The bloodline of the martial ancestor had long been lost. However, Heavenly Monk Fa Tian had met Gu Fei. Boom! A loud sound was heard. Boundless Buddhist energy gathered in front of Heavenly Monk Fa Tian. A golden wheel appeared in front of him, emitting boundless Buddhist light as it flew towards Gu Fei's incoming fist. As soon as the Buddhist wheel appeared, the heaven and earth were filled with auspicious qi. The shadow of a Buddha appeared behind Heavenly Monk Fa Tian. It looked solemn and dignified, as if it was about to walk out from the void. Bam! Gu Fei's fist fiercely smashed onto the Buddhist wheel. The Buddhist wheel that was condensed from boundless Buddhist energy crumbled in an instant. The Buddhist runes on the wheel started to dissipate. In front of absolute power, no great technique could withstand it. Heavenly Monk Fa Tian was sent flying thousands of meters away by Gu Fei's peerless fist. However, he was wearing a tattered kasaya and didn't suffer any damage. Could it be the legendary Buddhist robe? Gu Fei was taken aback. This big monk took his attack head-on and actually did not suffer any injuries. This caused Gu Fei to be in disbelief. Even Ba Tian Shen King did not dare to take his full power attack head-on. One had to know that he had already used one of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao, the Ascension secret art. His battle prowess had increased tenfold, and even a demi-sage would be heavily injured by a single punch from him. Again! Gu Fei was like a peerless god of war as he strode forward. In just one step, he had already appeared in front of Heavenly Monk Fa Tian. Without any hesitation, Gu Fei threw out a yang punch. His entire right fist emitted a dazzling light that illuminated the entire world. The glaring aura was like a divine sun appearing between heaven and earth. Gu Fei's speed was just too fast. Even an existence like Heavenly Monk Dharma couldn't dodge it. He was caught up in an instant. The powerful fist energy was like a primordial divine mountain crashing towards Heavenly Monk Dharma. Swoosh! Just as Gu Fei's fist was about to hit Heavenly Monk Fa Tian, the Buddhist robe on Heavenly Monk Fa Tian's body suddenly fluttered. Gu Fei's fist landed on the Buddhist robe. Ha! Just as Gu Fei's fist came in contact with the Buddhist robe, he felt an ocean-like power blocking his fist. It was just a thin layer of Buddhist robe, but it was able to block Gu Fei's earth-shattering punch without leaving a trace. There wasn't even a trace of Buddhist light. A gentle power like water pushed Gu Fei away. There was no killing intent at all. How am I supposed to fight like this? Gu Fei's heart trembled. This Buddhist robe on Heavenly Monk Fa Tian's body meant that he was invincible. This was the true meaning of invulnerability. The time limit of the Ascension secret technique was limited, so Gu Fei had to retreat. However, Heavenly Monk Fa Tian wasn't going to let Gu Fei go. He flew over from afar like a big bird. The Buddhist robe on his body turned into a dark yellow cloud that shrouded Gu Fei. You big bald head! Gu Fei cursed under his breath. At the same time, he used the 8 desolation void steps. He took a step forward and rushed out of the Buddhist robe. The 8 desolation void steps was a supreme movement technique that Gu Fei had evolved from the 8 desolation void steps. It was the fastest movement technique in the world. Buzz! Just as Heavenly Monk Fa Tian was about to use a Buddhist technique to capture Gu Fei, the sound of a sword whistling could be heard coming from afar. An overbearing sword light slashed toward Heavenly Monk Fa Tian's head. Shin King Ba Tian, who had been watching from the side, made his move. He slashed out with his sword and a monstrous domineering aura erupted from his body and swept across the sky. You! Heavenly Monk Fa Tian was shocked. Although he had expected that Shin King Ba Tian would make his move, he hadn't expected that Shin King Ba Tian would use such a fierce attack. The overbearing sword light seemed to have fallen from the 9 heavens. If one was hit by it, even 10 Baldies would fall to the ground. Swoosh! At this critical moment, Heavenly Monk Fa Tian's tattered monastic robe flew up from his body and covered him. The tattered monastic robe didn't emit any Buddhist light, and there weren't any Buddhist Tao patterns on it either. However, it was such an unremarkable monastic robe that blocked Heavenly Shin King Ba Tian's stunning sword attack. The sword light fell, but the monastic robe only shook a few times. Then, the dazzling sword light disappeared into the void. Everyone who witnessed this scene couldn't believe their eyes. How was this possible? One had to know that Shin King Ba Tian had slashed out with the Overlord's sword. Those who knew the origin of the Overlord's sword were dumbfounded. The divine sword in Shin King Ba Tian's hand was the Overlord's sword, a great saint divine weapon refined by a great saint. It wasn't something an ordinary saint weapon could compare to. A monastic robe that could block a great saint weapon. Could it be a monastic robe worn by a Buddhist lord? No one had thought that such an unremarkable monastic robe could block a strike from a great saint weapon. A great saint weapon was in existence second only to a great saint weapon. Gu Fei was already far away after being blocked by Heavenly Shin King Ba Tian. Preposterous! Heavenly Monk Fa Tian couldn't catch up to Gu Fei anymore, so he couldn't help but look coldly at Heavenly Shin King Ba Tian who was blocking his way. He wanted to attack, but in the end, he restrained himself. This time, when he came out from the Heavenly Buddha path, he didn't bring a great Tao Buddhist weapon with him. The great Tao Buddhist weapon was needed to guard Mount Meru, so it couldn't be used casually. As for the monastic robe on his body, it was hard for him to control it. It had been some time since he obtained the monastic robe, but Heavenly Monk Fa Tian found that he couldn't use it at all. He could only wear it. However, after putting on the monastic robe, even if Heavenly Monk Fa Tian couldn't bring out the full power of the monastic robe, he wouldn't be affected by any techniques. The Chaos Dragon Cavern's great demons had arrived. The entire Chaos Dragon Cavern was crossing over, and the aura of the great Tao caused the billions of living beings in the West Earth to tremble. Heavenly Monk Fa Tian didn't stop the Chaos Dragon Cavern's great demons. The entire Chaos Dragon Cavern was crossing over, and the aura of the great Tao caused all living beings in the West Earth to tremble. Heavenly Monk Fa Tian didn't stop the Chaos Dragon Cavern. He couldn't wait for all the wilderness forces to come out from the Heavenly Buddha path. Without any suspense, after the Beast Emperor Mountain, the Chaos Dragon Cavern also came out from the Heavenly Buddha path. In the end, the Yi Clan's ancient city also crossed over. He Tian pushed the power of the great guiding formation to the limit, enveloping the entire ancient city. The Yi Clan's ancient city was the last to come out. When the Yi Clan's ancient city came out from the red spatial tunnel, countless fire phoenix divine jades in the city instantly turned into dust. At the last moment, countless pieces of fire phoenix divine jades that were used to arrange the formation turned into ashes. He Tian's heart was bleeding. That was several thousand pieces of fire phoenix divine jades, a huge amount of divine treasures. Anyone would be envious of such a fortune, but it turned into nothingness just like that. Go! Heavenly Tyrant Shin King soared into the sky, protecting the Yi Clan's ancient city as they disappeared into the horizon. Heavenly Monk Fa Tian heaved a sigh of relief when all the forces that came out from the wilderness had left. One had to know that these experts were a huge threat to the Buddhist path. Gu Fei! Heavenly Monk Fa Tian's figure flickered and directly rushed into the golden door above the spirited mountain. The golden door in the sky did not close. After a while, Heavenly Monk Fa Tian once again rushed out from the golden door. This time, a peerless beauty followed behind him. This peerless beauty was the Chaos Demonic Lord. The Savage Beast Lord and the Chaos Demonic Lord, these two great quasi-saint experts had already converted to Buddhism and lost their freedom, obeying Heavenly Monk Fa Tian's orders. How could such characters be willing to be ordered around by others? However, no one knew what method Heavenly Monk Fa Tian used to subdue these two great quasi-saint existences. This was unbelievable. Heavenly Monk Fa Tian brought the Chaos Demonic Lord and the Savage Beast Lord away from the Spirited Mountain. I'm finally back! At the edge of the Western Buddhist land, on the peak of a mountain stood a figure. This person was none other than Gu Fei. After leaving the Spirited Mountain, he arrived at the periphery of the West Earth. This place was close to the Shaman land. He still had a disciple here. In the past, he broke out of the Hell Dao and wreaked havoc in the Spirited Mountain. After that, he came to the Shaman land that bordered the West Earth and Central Earth. There, he killed an incomparably powerful shaman demon and took in a disciple. So many years had passed. How was his disciple doing? What realm had his cultivation reached? The human world was no longer the human world of the past. The forces of the ancient desolate had begun to return, and the great Tao of heaven and earth was gradually changing. Experts were emerging in large numbers. In such a great era, his disciple would inevitably face all kinds of challenges. The world of cultivation was cruel. If one's cultivation wasn't strong enough, his life would be in danger at any time. If he met an opponent stronger than him, his ending would definitely be miserable. Let's go and take a look. When Gu Fei thought of this, he immediately soared into the sky and disappeared into the mountain. In the Shaman land, an ancient city stood tall on the ground. It emitted a boundless aura. This was a god city that had existed for countless years. At this time, the ancient city was gloomy and gloomy. The city gates were tightly shut, and even the city protection formation had been activated. Many corpses lay in front of the city gates. There was a powerful existence blocking everyone in the ancient city. Chapter 1565. The Sorcerer Land used to be a barren land between the Middle Land and the West Land. It was ruled by the Sorcerer tribe for countless years, which was why it was called the Sorcerer Land. Since the Sorcerer tribe was destroyed by Gu Fei, the Sorcerer Land was under the control of the Gu family. The number one expert of the Gu family was Gu Fei's disciple. Gu Fei's disciple was incredible. He really took the Holy Virgin of the Yaotai Holy Land as his wife and gave birth to a son. Gu Xiufeng was now in the heaven realm. However, today, the Gu family of the Sorcerer Land faced a great calamity. Forces from the remote antiquity attacked the Gu family and surrounded the ancient city. Anyone who came out of the ancient city and China would be killed. Someone wanted to destroy the Gu family of the Sorcerer Land. Master, what should we do now? In the governor's mansion of the ancient city, a fat middle-aged man sat on a throne. Senior members of the Gu family sat on both sides of him. The hall was filled with sorrow. The Gu family of the Sorcerer Land had been blocked in the city for 18 days. During these 18 days, many disciples of the Gu family were killed. Even Gu Zhong's eldest disciple was killed at the city gate. However, those people couldn't break the protective formation of the ancient city. The formation of the ancient city was set up by He Tian years ago. He Tian's formation was different. The ancient city's formation could automatically absorb the earth essence and gather power. After many years of absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, the power of the formation had been enhanced to a level that could frighten even mighty figures. This was also the reason why those people didn't dare to attack the formation. Defend! Gu Zhong was no longer the Gu Zhong he used to be. He was now Gu Fei's disciple. Gu Fei had left him many elixirs before he left. With the help of the elixirs and his own efforts, Gu Zhong had become an emperor. A ninth heaven emperor realm expert could easily kill an immortal emperor and Shin King. He was only half a step away from the realm of mighty figures. However, he couldn't take this step no matter how hard he tried. The existence of the ninth heaven martial emperor was enough to intimidate an entire region and compete with the first heaven martial emperor. However, Gu Zhong was not Gu Fei after all. He did not have an extreme Tao Saint weapon, nor had he cultivated an inner world. When he fought with others, there was no way out. If he could not win, he could only escape. If he could not escape, he would die. Guard? The upper echelons of the Gu clan, who were in the main hall, felt despair. How much longer could they hold out? The other party had already sent someone to invite a semi-sage. The grand formation of the ancient city would be breached once a half-saint arrived, and the Gu clan would be completely annihilated once the half-saint arrived. A great calamity was about to befall them, yet they were still defending to the death. Wasn't that just waiting for death? Some of the members of the Gu family began to look for a way out. After all, not everyone was so courageous, and not everyone was unafraid of death. Roar! At this moment, an angry roar suddenly came from outside. An extremely powerful aura passed through the city protecting Grand Array and entered the city lord mansion. Hearing this roar, everyone's expression changed. A peerlessly powerful existence had arrived. How could it be so fast? The upper echelons of the Gu clan, who were in the main hall, were extremely shocked. The semi-sage invited by the other party had arrived, and what awaited them was the butcher's knife. All of them felt despair. A semi-sage? What kind of existence was that? Even in the mortal dimension, a semi-sage was a peerlessly powerful existence, and could be said to be invincible. They had never imagined that the other party would actually invite a semi-sage over so quickly. The setting sun was like blood. An old man stood on a mountain outside the ancient city. The old man's entire body emanated a divine radiance. Numerous divine markings of the great Tao appeared on his body and interweaved with the energy of the great Tao. An extremely powerful aura spread out from the old man's body. There was no one on the mountain peak who could withstand the pressure emitted from the old man's body. This old man was a semi-sage. Such an existence could move unhindered even in the mortal dimension. Who exactly did the Gu clan offend? Even Gu Zhong didn't know that the other party was actually able to invite a semi-sage. It was a mysterious force that had set its eyes on them. This grand formation is very extraordinary. It'll be a pity if it's destroyed. The old man's eyes emitted 2 rays of dazzling divine light. His knowledge was extraordinary, so he was able to discern the peculiarity of the grand formation in front of the ancient city with a single glance. It was connected to the chi of the 9 heavens and the power of the earth. The power drawn by this grand formation was too shocking. If this grand formation continued to absorb the essence of the world for a few hundred years, then even a semi-sage would probably find it difficult to destroy this grand formation. Even though it's a pity, there's no other way. The old man soared up from the mountain and flew towards the ancient city. Bam! A huge hand slapped down from the sky above the ancient city. Countless Tao markings surged on the huge hand, and it seemed like a world was pressing down on the ancient city. Rumble! The entire ancient city shook. Countless formation markings were activated at the first possible moment. All of them soared into the sky and interweaved into an inescapable net. Swoosh! Rays of starlight descended from the sky. Earth essence that looked like dragons surged out from the ground. At this moment, the grand formation of the city had drawn down the killing tribulation of the world. Even if a mighty cultivator were to barge in with such power, his expression would probably change. Rays of starlight transformed into a terrifying divine light of absolute death and shot towards the giant hand in the sky. Meanwhile, the giant dragon that rushed out from the ground also rushed towards the giant hand in the sky. Boom! The killing lights formed by the power of the stars and the dragons that rushed out from the ground all collapsed amidst an earth-shattering rumble. The huge hand was indestructible and carried the power of the great path. It seemed like it could suppress everything and wipe out everything in the world. You've gone too far! A loud shout was heard from the ancient city. Then, a figure rushed out from the city and threw a punch. The entire world shook. Boom! The huge hand that slapped down from the sky collapsed in an instant. Countless Tao markings were shameful. That person's punch had such power. Eh? A surprised voice was heard from the sky. The person in the sky did not seem to have expected his opponent to be able to block his attack. The combat power that his opponent had displayed surprised him. He's just a little guy in the ninth heaven of the martial emperor realm. How could he have such combat power? The person who came was very surprised. Moreover, he wanted to know how the little guy in front of him had done it. A warrior in the ninth heaven of the martial emperor realm was able to block the attack of a semi-saint. In fact, the power of the semi-saint had been greatly weakened by the grand formation of the city. That was why Gu Zhong could destroy the remaining power with one punch. Otherwise, even Gu Zhong would have been seriously injured. Although the martial body of the martial emperor realm was strong, the gap between the two was too big. Chapter 1566. The attack of a half-step saint had put the entire Gu family in danger of being annihilated. The grand formation laid down by He Tian in the past couldn't compete with the power of a half-step saint. What was a half-step saint? It was a half-step saint. Although it wasn't a true saint, it still had the aura and means of a saint. Although the great city barrier array was extraordinary and could draw upon the power of heaven and earth for its use, it was still not enough in the face of absolute power. Rumble! A huge hand surrounded by countless Tao runes fell from the sky, emitting a peerlessly powerful wave. It was as if a part of the heaven and earth was collapsing and pressing down. The countless formation runes that enveloped the ancient city emitted the brightest light and displayed the most powerful force, but it still couldn't resist the suppression of the half-step saint's hand. Countless formation runes were dissipating and collapsing. A gap appeared in the sky above the ancient city. The entire grand formation was broken by the huge hand. Swoosh! In the sky above, huge starlight the size of mountains fell. It was the power of the stars drawn by the grand formation of the ancient city. Each of the starlight contained the power of destruction. Billions of starlight fell from the sky, forming the most terrifying destructive divine light. Even an immortal emperor would die if they were swept by these starlight. Even a supreme expert would be severely injured if he or she broke into this place. At the same time, formation runes emerged on the ground and interweaved into a mysterious pattern. The essence of the earth was drawn. Bang! Huge dragon-like essence of the earth rushed out of the pattern and soared into the sky like real earth dragons, colliding with the half-step saint's hand in the sky. The murderous intent descended from the sky, and the murderous tribulation of the earth. This was the murderous tribulation of the heaven and earth. It was incomparably terrifying. Even a half-step saint couldn't help but be moved. Boom! An earth-shattering sound spread across the entire shaman land, causing billions of living beings to tremble. The pressure of a half-step saint was too powerful. This was the peak power of the human world. Of course, a half-step saint wasn't the strongest, but it was enough to do whatever it wanted in the human world. Billions of starlight collapsed and countless huge dragons collapsed. The half-step saint's hand destroyed everything, directly breaking one of the most powerful attacks of the ancient city's grand formation. The higher-ups of the Gu family were in despair. They couldn't resist the power of a half-step saint. The grand formation that He Tian had set up in the past could no longer protect the Gu family. This was definitely a disaster for the Gu family. Great changes were happening in the human world. It was as if there was a force driving all of this. There was an invisible dark hand that wanted to control these changes. Someone had set their eyes on the Gu family of the shaman land. This was a mysterious force. It should be known that the wife of the current patriarch of the Gu clan, Gu Zhong, was once the saintess of the Yaotai Holy Land. The relationship between the Gu clan and the Yaotai Holy Land was impossible to be unknown to the other forces in the human world. In the mortal world, the Jadistage ancient Holy Land was a transcendent existence. This Holy Land had a background that made others apprehensive. No one dared to look down on it, and no one was willing to rashly provoke it. Some people said that there were Yaotai ancient immortals sleeping in the Yaotai ancient sacred land. They were at least saint-level existences. If a saint were to appear in the mortal dimension where saints had vanished, then it would be a formidable force that was capable of toppling the entire mortal dimension. Saints in the human world were invincible and supreme existences. Gu Zhong's talent was extraordinary. He cultivated the martial way of the supreme martial ancestor, which was passed down from Gu Fei. It was a supreme martial way that could turn one's body into a saint. In the past, when Gu Zhong had stolen the saintess of the Yaotai ancient Holy Land, the experts of the Yaotai ancient Holy Land had come to the city. However, they were blocked by the ancient city's grand formation and could not enter the city. However, in just 100 years, the audacious Gu Zhong had become a martial emperor. His combat strength was at the 9th heaven of the martial emperor realm. Even those at the 1st heaven of the martial emperor realm would be terrified. Of course, the fact that Gu Zhong was able to cultivate to such a level within 100 years was inseparable from the changes in the human world. The human world had become suitable for cultivation. The great way of the heavens and earth had become closer to each other. This was good news for all cultivators. The great way of the heavens and earth was no longer difficult to grasp. It allowed those who had reached a bottleneck in their cultivation to break through. It was under such circumstances that Gu Zhong managed to cultivate his martial monarch body. The value of a martial emperor was undoubtedly great. In recent years, the Yaotai ancient sacred ground's attitude toward Gu Zhong had gradually changed. They seemed to be able to accept Gu Zhong. Gu Zhong was in danger, and the people of the ancient sacred ground would not ignore him. It should be known that Gu Zhong's wife had returned to the Yaotai ancient sacred ground 10 years ago. No one was willing to raise a flag to attack the Gu family. All of this was done in secret. A mysterious and powerful force wanted to destroy the Gu family. The half-saint's hand continued to press down. Although the power of the formation had reduced the strength of the hand by more than half, if the hand were to hit the city, it would definitely shatter the entire ancient city into pieces. The residents of the city would not be able to escape death. Damn it! A furious roar came from the city. You've gone too far! A figure rushed out from the city and threw a punch. The huge force shook the heavens and earth. It was only a single punch, but it was already earth-shattering. This was the might of a martial emperor. It was an invincible Tao. The martial Tao created by the supreme martial ancestor was invincible to begin with. It allowed one to become a martial saint by force. As long as one could become a martial saint, one would be invincible among those in the same realm. A martial ancestor was an invincible existence. Boom! The extremely ferocious fist energy collided with the giant hand in the sky. A destructive force swept out in all directions, causing countless formation runes to dissipate. Under this destructive power, the great city protecting array almost disintegrated. Gu Zhong threw out a powerful punch. The giant hand that was pressing down from the sky collapsed. The punch had actually shattered the half-saint's hand. What? A cry of surprise came from the sky. The half-saint in the sky could not believe that a mere 9th heaven emperor realm cultivator had withstood his attack. Gu Zhong fell from the sky with a trace of blood seeping out from the corner of his mouth. Although he had dissipated the half-saint's hand, he had also suffered a great impact. Even his powerful martial emperor body had been injured. Master! A few figures rushed out from the city lord's mansion. Humph! A cold sneer came from the sky. 9 rays of divine light shot down from the sky and pierced through the 9 figures. 9 people were killed on the spot. No! Gu Zhong roared in anger. His eyes were bloodshot. Those were his 9 disciples. He flew into a rage and rushed towards the half-saint in the sky. The death of his top 10 disciples was definitely a terrifying blow to Gu Zhong. It was enough to drive him mad. Kill! Gu Zhong shouted and immediately used an ancient combat skill. His murderous intent soared to the sky as he charged forward. So what if he was facing a half-saint? The worst that could happen was death. Chapter 1567. Immortal Martial Saint Volume 2 Chapter 1575. Bullying My Disciple? Bully My Disciple? Eternal Martial Lord Chapter 1575. Immortal Martial Saint Chapter 1575 Chapter 1005 Chapter 1575. Bullying My Disciple? Xian Huan Fantasy Immortal Martial Saint Volume 2 Chapter 1575. Immortal Martial Saint Bully My Disciple? Return to Immortal Martial Saint Volume 2 Chapter 1575, Bullying My Disciple. Bully My Disciple? Novel name, Immortal Martial Saint. Author, Liang Clan's third Young Master category, Xian Huan Fantasy. Indestructible Martial Saint. Remember, updated quickly. As a martial artist, Gu Zhong could only move forward, there was no retreat. Of course, he had no other choice but to fight with his life on the line. Novel, no one thought that the enemy would invite a half-step saint so quickly. Without any suspense, the great protective formation was broken in the first moment. Kill! Gu Zhong roared, his voice shaking the 9 heavens. His murderous intent soared to the heavens. 10 of his disciples were killed. This almost drove him crazy. No matter what half-step saint he was, he still wanted to fight. Even if he died in battle, Gu Zhong would absolutely not retreat. The city's supreme treasure. Gu Zhong's body was still huge like a ball, but his movements were extremely fast. He cultivated the desolate steppes. His speed was so fast that even supreme experts couldn't catch up to him. Do you want to die? I haven't had enough fun yet. Cruel and callous words echoed down from the sky. A huge hand slammed down from the sky, sending Gu Zhong, who was about to risk his life, flying away. That half-saint had controlled his strength perfectly. He had only caused Gu Zhong's sovereign martial body to almost collapse. However, his life wasn't harmed. Then, the huge hand swiped down towards the city. More than 10 figures that soared into the sky were shattered into clouds of blood mist, their bodies and souls destroyed. You! Gu Zhong's eyes were bloodshot, he gritted his teeth. He was mad with hatred, the muscles on his face trembled. He was about to fall into a state of madness. Gu Zhong's father, brothers, and uncles were amongst those who were killed by the half-saint. They were Gu Zhong's closest relatives, yet they had actually died in front of him on this day, yet he was unable to do anything about it. I want to become stronger. I want to kill all of you, no matter who you are. Gu Zhong roared towards the sky as tears of blood flowed from his eyes. The martial Tao true force in his body surged violently. He cultivated the 5 elemental true force, which was different from his master, Gu Fei. Clang! Boundless 5 elemental true force rushed out from Gu Zhong's body, condensing into multicolored divine swords that floated around him, emitting a monstrous sword chi. Shahage. Pure text. It's just a deathbed struggle, a record of a mortal's journey to immortality. The icy cold voice in the sky resounded. A tiny emperor actually dared to compete with a half-saint? This was simply courting death. In the eyes of a half-saint, Gu Zhong wasn't any stronger than an ant. Bam! Another giant hand slammed down from the sky. Kill! Gu Zhong waved his hand, and the countless 5-colored divine warships around him shot into the sky, piercing towards the blurry figure in the sky. Countless sword shadows soared into the sky. Such a scene was grand and shocking, but in the eyes of a half-saint, such an attack was too weak. The giant hand swiped, and the sword light in the sky dispersed. The 5 elemental sword chi was directly dispersed, and then devoured by the giant hand. This power was absorbed by the half-saint. Such pure power! The cold voice in the sky resounded. Without any suspense, Gu Zhong was once again sent flying, but the half-saint in the sky was not in a hurry to kill him. Gu Zhong was only injured, not killed. I'm going to kill all of your family in front of you. The half-saint was ruthless, wanting to destroy the entire Gu clan. He attacked continuously, and the Gu clan didn't have the strength to resist. A few more people were killed. Roar! Although Gu Zhong's battle intent was like a rainbow, the disparity between the two sides was too great. Even if he wanted to go all out, it would be difficult for him to get close to the killing god in the sky. Master, it seems like this disciple is going to die today. Gu Zhong felt despair. Ever since he was accepted as a disciple by Gu Fei, he had never felt such despair. Even the great formation of the city couldn't stop the enemy. At this time, Gu Zhong thought of his master, Gu Fei, who had brought him on the path of martial arts. I want to look at your martial scripture. The half-saint in the sky was extremely domineering. He directly stretched out his hand to grab Gu Zhong. Gu Zhong's emperor martial physique was seriously injured, and he couldn't dodge at all. He was grabbed by the giant hand and brought in front of the half-saint. You! Divine runes of the great Tao rushed out from the half-saint's hand and then branded into Gu Zhong's body, completely suppressing him. At this time, even if Gu Zhong wanted to go all out, he couldn't do anything. Preposterous! Gu Zhong felt a chill run down his spine. Was this the power of a half-saint? Before Gu Fei left, he had branded half of the martial scripture in Gu Zhong's heart. This half-saint was actually after his martial scripture. One should know that the martial scripture was a supreme cultivation technique created by the supreme martial ancestor. If it was leaked in his hands, then Gu Zhong would be a sinner of the martial ancestor's line. Swish! A divine light emerged from between the old man's eyebrows, as if a divine eye was growing out. An extremely powerful divine sense surged out from the crack between his eyebrows. Cultivation Rampage. Quick Look Book. The old man wanted to use the soul-searching technique to directly read Gu Zhong's memories. In this way, all of Gu Zhong's secrets would be seen through by the old man. Ah! Gu Zhong wished for nothing more than to die right now. This soul-searching technique was extremely overbearing. The soul would be heavily injured, and if it was light, the soul would turn into an idiot. Roar! Just when the old man was about to use his powerful divine will to directly enter Gu Zhong's Naiwen palace, a loud shout came from afar. The voice was filled with anger. That is... As soon as the voice entered his ears, Gu Zhong was dumbfounded. He hadn't forgotten this voice for 100 years. Is that master? Bang! Following a muffled sound, Gu Zhong felt his body flying. The old man who grabbed him retreated in panic as if he had encountered a strong enemy. You dare to bully my disciple? You're courting death! A person rushed over from afar. A powerful aura was emitted from the person's body. It was vast and mighty. This person was like an invincible god of war. With just a punch, he forced the half-step saint to retreat. Master! It's really Master! I'm not dreaming, right? Gu Zhong was surprised and happy. He saw a powerful figure reaching out his hand and catching him. Good boy, it's not a waste for me to accept you as my disciple. You actually dared to challenge a half-step saint. You're even more amazing than me. Gu Fei held Gu Zhong in his arms, and an unparalleled true power was transmitted from his hands. The great path divine inscriptions that were imprinted on Gu Zhong's body were immediately forced out of his body. Who are you? The old man was shocked and angered by Gu Fei's punch. This person was extremely powerful. Moreover, he was not a half-step saint. He was a fifth heavenly layer almighty. Gu Fei arrived. Fortunately, he came in time. Otherwise, his only disciple in the human realm would have fallen. Master, it's really you. Gu Zhong shed tears. Gu Zhong was shedding hot tears. He had never imagined that Gu Fei would appear at this moment. The Gu clan was saved. It's me. Go and rest first. Watch as Master plucks this guy's head off and kicks it like a ball. How dare you bully my disciple? You must be tired of living. Gu Fei waved his hand. Gu Zhong's fat body immediately flew towards the city lord's mansion below. He was caught by the experts of the Gu clan who rushed out of the city and placed on the ground. Master? You're Gu Zhong's master? Very good. I want your martial scripture. The old man was still domineering. He didn't think that a guy who was only a fifth heavenly layer almighty would be his opponent. Humph! Gu Fei sneered and stared at the old man. Half-step saint? In his eyes, it was a joke. After all, he'd killed the half-saint of the demon clan not long ago. Is the Liang clan's third young master's indestructible martial revered good? If you haven't finished reading, you can add the immortal martial supremacy, keyboard, enter key square root, keyboard, recommended reading, sword-wielding song legend mage another world survival record playing game arena flourishing China swallowing the stars unlimited strong martial arts innate divine doctor unlimited wuxia dream if you like the Liang family's third young masters. Indestructible martial arts revered. Please add, indestructible martial arts revered, to make it easier to read in the future. If you have any suggestions for the indestructible martial arts revered, please send a message to the admin. Collect all kinds of fantasy and fantasy novels for you. Provide Indestructible Martial Lord Volume 2, Chapter 1575, Chapter 1000 FIV. Bully my disciple? Of Chapter 1568. You dare to bully my disciple? You're courting death. Gu Fei directly rushed forward like a phantom. His whole body seemed to have merged with the surrounding void. However, such a rush actually made the old man feel that it was difficult to dodge. An extremely dangerous aura was emitted from Gu Fei's body. What? The old man was shocked. This guy's cultivation was only at the fifth heaven of Almighty Realm. How could he make the old man feel like this? This was really unbelievable. Boom! A terrifying aura that seemed to come from ancient times erupted from Gu Fei's body. His speed instantly increased to the limit, and he instantly rushed in front of the old man. Swish! The old man was a half-step saint after all. His reaction was not slow, and he immediately retreated. However, it was already too late. Gu Fei's fist had already hit in front of the old man. Roar! The old man roared and his clothes swelled up. Countless Tao patterns emerged on his body and weaved the power of the great Tao. He was using the power of the great Tao to protect himself. However, this punch of Gu Fei was at the peak of his strength. His spirit was raised to the limit. This punch was indomitable and invincible. The old man watched as Gu Fei's fist penetrated the Tao patterns outside his body and hit his chest. The sound of bones breaking was immediately heard. Gu Fei's fist deeply sank into the old man's chest. The powerful body of a half-step saint could not resist this powerful punch of Gu Fei's. Gu Fei used all his strength to fight a rabbit. He used the Ascension secret technique in order to kill the old man in one blow. He wanted to use thousands of moves in one blow to determine the outcome of the battle. Kill! Gu Fei let out a furious roar. His fist blossomed with millions of rays of divine light, and a peerlessly powerful force erupted. It was as if a sun had exploded, illuminating the entire world. Ah! The old man let out a blood-curdling screech. His entire chest exploded. This power was simply too powerful. Even his half-sage physique couldn't withstand it, and was heavily injured. A great amount of blood sprinkled down from the sky as the semi-sage was sent flying thousands of meters away by Gu Fei's punch. His entire body was almost blown up. I'll kill you! Blood gushed out of the elder's mouth, and a powerful murderous aura emanated from his body. Divine patterns of the Great Path appeared on the elder's body. His broken chest was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. His muscles, bones, and blood were surging rapidly. In just a few breaths, the old man's body had been completely healed. However, a punch from Gu Fei was enough to injure the old man's vitality. To the old man, this was absolutely unforgivable. If the news that he was injured by a little guy who was only at the fifth heaven of Almighty Realm spread, he wouldn't be able to face anyone. Of course, this was a mysterious operation. No one would know about it. However, the old man couldn't get over it. If he didn't kill Gu Fei, there would be a shadow in the old man's heart. It would be a knot in his heart. This would cause his cultivation to stagnate and affect his Tao heart. Kill! The old man displayed the powerful combat strength of the semi-sage realm. Countless Tao patterns weaved into a large bell, and it fell down on Gu Fei's head. This was a killing technique of the semi-sage realm. Humph! Gu Fei soared into the sky and punched upwards. This extremely powerful punch directly shattered the Tao bell. In the face of absolute power, even a real Tao instrument would be destroyed. This time, the old man was really shocked. Was this really a guy who was at the fifth heaven of Almighty Realm? This was too heaven-defying. This kind of combat strength should not be possessed by someone who was only at the fifth heaven of Almighty Realm. Gu Fei didn't care what the old man was thinking. His goal was very simple: and that was to kill this guy who dared to bully his disciple. "I'm not playing with you anymore." Gu Fei unsheathed the purple gold divine sword and slashed at the old man. A ray of purple swordlight flashed across the void like a bolt of lightning. Swoosh! Blood suddenly appeared, and an arm flew high into the sky. The old man screamed and reached out to cover his broken arm. He quickly rushed into the distant sky, trying to escape from this place. "That's a sword of the extreme path. How dare they trick me?" The old man was shocked. Although Gu Fei's sword did not display the power of the extreme path, the murderous aura contained in the purple gold divine sword invaded his body and destroyed his vitality. The murderous aura on the purple gold divine sword was extraordinary. Even if this murderous aura invaded the body, it would be difficult for even a semi-sage to resist. Starting from the broken arm, the old man's body gradually collapsed, and his blood, flesh, tendons, and bones gradually turned into flying ash. In just an instant, half of the old man's body had already disappeared. Damn it! The old man was scared out of his wits. Although he was a semi-sage, it did not mean that he would not die. It seemed that he would not be able to keep his body. To be able to become a semi-sage, this old man was also an extremely talented human. He was decisive in killing. His primordial spirit directly broke through the top of his head, turned into a divine light, and soared into the sky. Buzz! A sword sound rang out, and a purple sword light chased from behind. No! The old man's primordial spirit was like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bow. He wanted to use a primordial spirit technique to escape, but the speed of the purple gold divine light was too fast. Swish! The sword light flashed, and the old man's primordial spirit was instantly caught by the sword light, and directly turned into flying ash. A peerless semi-sage was killed by Gu Fei just like that. Master! In the ancient city, Gu Zhong saw this scene, and he was both surprised and happy. He was surprised by the strength of his master, who could easily kill a semi-sage. He was happy because the great calamity of the Gu clan had finally been resolved. Humph! A lot of people came! After killing the semi-sage, Gu Fei's pair of divine eyes immediately scanned the surroundings. There were many obscure auras coming from the vicinity of the ancient city. There were experts hiding nearby. What kind of disaster did this brat Gu Zhong do that someone actually invited a semi-sage to kill him? Swish! Gu Fei's figure suddenly disappeared in the sky. In the next moment, a scream resounded from a short mountain outside the ancient city, and a cloud of blood burst out from that place. Someone was killed in an instant. Go! Someone secretly ordered, and the experts hiding in the surroundings of the ancient city quickly moved far away. They wanted to leave this place. Even the semi-sage they invited was killed. If they didn't leave now, then they wouldn't be able to leave anymore. What's going on? How can there be such a powerful expert in the Gu clan? Gu Fei's silhouette flashed in and out of the vicinity of the ancient city. He was like a god of death, wielding the violet gold divine sword, reaping lives one by one. Under the violet gold divine sword, no one could withstand a single attack from Gu Fei. Even if this sword didn't display its extreme divine power, it still possessed terrifying power. The murderous aura emitted by the purple gold divine sword was enough to threaten a semi-sage. This was a one-sided massacre. They were originally the hunters, but now they had become the prey. Not a single one of those mysterious experts hiding in the dark could escape. Let's see who in this mortal world dares to bully the disciple of Gu Fei. Gu Fei's voice spread far and wide. Chapter 1569. Indestructible Martial Saint Volume 2 Chapter 1577. War is Over Master Hei's Masterpiece Indestructible Martial Saint Volume 2 Chapter 1577. War is Over Master Hei's Masterpiece Xuanhuan Fantasy Indestructible Martial Saint Volume 2 Chapter 1577. Master Hei's Masterpiece Master Black's Masterpiece returns to the Indestructible Martial Lord Catalog Volume 2 Chapter 1577. War is Over Master Hei's Masterpiece Name, Indestructible Martial Saint Author, Liang Clan's third young master type, Xuanhuan. Fantasy indestructible martial saint, update quickly. Gu Fei returned and slaughtered all those who dared to attack his disciple, not letting a single one of them escape. He used the violet gold godly sword, capable of slaying even a half-saint. Although Gu Fei had refined the extreme Dao sword, its killing intent was still as strong as ever. A single strand of killing intent was enough to kill a half-saint. There was no need to use the extreme Dao divine aura, just a simple slash was enough to sweep through everything. This was the terror of an extreme Dao saint weapon, no one could resist such power. 108 experts, just who did this Gu Zhong kid offend? In a forest, Gu Fei stood with his sword, a drop of blood dripping down from the tip of his sword. Behind him was a corpse, the smell of blood permeated the air. Gu Fei chased for 1,000 miles and finally killed one of the pursuers with his sword. He would never let go of those who dared to target his disciple, nor would he be merciful. In the cruel world of cultivation, there was no room for mercy. To be able to invite a half-saint and mobilize so many experts, this force was not simple. Gu Fei's expression turned solemn. You are the person I've been waiting for my entire life. He walked out of the forest and soared into the sky, flying towards the ancient city. This time, the Gu clan had suffered a great calamity. The Gu clan's members were either dead or injured, almost all of them were crippled. Master! Gu Zhong personally went out of the city to welcome Gu Fei. The two of them had not seen each other for 100 years and naturally, they had many things to talk about. In the past 100 years, Gu Zhong was able to cultivate his skills, which made Gu Fei feel incomparably shocked. It should be known that the martial way was not an easy path. It was far more difficult than other cultivation systems. Many martial artists would find it difficult to achieve anything even after cultivating for a while. Novel, if Gu Fei had not coincidentally obtained a mystical jade pendant that allowed his cultivation speed to soar by 10 times, he would have died of old age long ago. If one did not become an immortal, one would not be able to live forever. Gu Fei's master had reached the end of his lifespan, and died of old age on Taishan Mountain. For the rest of his life, it was difficult for him to cultivate martial arts to a level that would allow him to live forever. In a secret chamber in the ancient city, Gu Fei and Gu Zhong were discussing in detail. At this time, in a region where West Earth and Shaman land intersected, someone was fighting a great battle. The power of Yin and Yang was vast and mighty. Someone had linked up with Yin and Yang, using the two energies of Yin and Yang to activate the great life-slaying technique. A Yin-Yang Dao diagram appeared in the skies above this area. Rumble! The earth shook, and another force erupted. Rays of golden light rushed out from below the Yin-Yang Dao diagram, illuminating the world. This was an auspicious power of Buddha. The full text of the 5 emblems was free to read. The power of mercy of Buddha was just a facade. The auspicious power of Buddha could also transform into a terrible power of slaughter to subdue demons and demons. The mercy of Buddhism was limited. Perhaps only the legendary Buddha Lord of all ages truly possessed the supreme power of mercy and compassion to save the billions of lives in the 3 realms and 6 paths. You big baldies, if you keep pushing me, I'll break your big bald heads! A voice rang out. Below the Yin-Yang Dao diagram stood a figure. Yin and Yang matrix patterns bloomed all over his body, drawing the power of Yin and Yang between heaven and earth, turning it into a power of slaughter. He was fighting with the 3 golden arhats below. Rays of killing light formed from the essence of Yin and Yang fell from the Yin-Yang Dao diagram behind Tian, sweeping towards the 3 golden arhats below. Demon, submit to the law! One of the golden arhats shouted. Countless Buddhist patterns emerged on his body, and a peerless and powerful Buddhist power rushed out from his body. Buzz! A golden Buddhist commandment blade rushed out from the top of the golden-bodied arhat's head and turned into a beam of dazzling golden light. It slashed upward and broke through the layers of Yin and Yang energy essence, pointing straight at Mahakala. Holy weapon? Tian was surprised, but he immediately calmed down. This Buddhist commandment blade was not a holy weapon. Although there was a wisp of holy chi rushing out, it was not comparable to a holy weapon at all. It's just a quasi-holy weapon, and you want to take my life? What a joke, the mark you left in my heart! Mahakala pointed a finger forward, and a nearly invisible sword beam shot out from the tip of his finger. It instantly pierced through the golden light that was coming at him, shattering the blade energy. The golden Buddhist commandment blade in the blade light was minced into thousands of pieces, and the fragments turned into countless golden lights, like golden stars, dissipating in the void. What? The 3 golden arhats below were shocked. This was a Buddhist weapon bestowed by Buddhist Lord Green Lotus, yet it was destroyed just like that. This shocked and angered them at the same time. At this time, Buddhist Lord Green Lotus had already returned to the spiritual mountain and brought many Buddhist experts with him. These 3 golden arhats were 3 of the 36 golden arhats. Buddhist Lord Green Lotus had sent out 36 golden arhats to hunt down the lone experts that broke out from the heavenly Buddha path. Haitian was unlucky and was targeted by 3 golden arhats. Haitian wanted to ignore these baldies, but these baldies attacked him as soon as they appeared, almost injuring him. This made him furious. However, there were 3 of them, and each of them was an almighty expert with a Buddhist weapon on them. Haitian wasn't someone who would suffer a loss when the odds were against him. He immediately retreated, causing the 3 golden arhats to chase him for thousands of miles. Finally, he arrived at the border of West Earth. Since he had already returned to the mortal world, Haitian knew that Gu Fei would definitely go find his disciple because he was Gu Fei's only disciple in the mortal world. I'll let you know that Grandpa He isn't someone to be trifled with. Do you know how much my heart hurts? Haitian smiled wickedly. The nearly invisible sword light fell from the sky and directly broke the Vajra demon's subduing ring propped up by the 3 golden arhats. Wah! Aya! My face! The 3 golden arhats felt a stabbing pain on their heads, faces, and chests. One of the 3 golden arhats had a small turtle carved on his head. On the face of the other golden arhat, there was a mark that looked like a pile of feces. The last golden arhat's chest was actually carved with the image of a half-naked beauty by the nearly transparent sword light. The image of the beauty was vivid and lifelike. Hee, remember this in the future. Don't provoke Grandpa He anymore. Haitian was very satisfied with his masterpiece. He chuckled a few times and retracted the sword light. He fused with the yin-yang Dao diagram behind him and turned into a beam of yin-yang divine light that soared into the sky. This is... When the 3 golden arhats saw the marks on their bodies, they almost vomited blood. Especially the one who had the image of a beauty carved on his chest by Haitian. His vision turned dark and he almost fainted. This demon. These marks were imbued with the power of a saint. It was impossible to heal them. This caused the 3 golden arhats to be shocked and furious. If you haven't finished reading, you can add the Immortal Martial Supremacy, keyboard, enter key square root, keyboard, recommended reading, sword-wielding song legend mage another world survival record playing game arena flourishing China swallowing the stars unlimited strong martial arts innate divine doctor unlimited wuxia dream if you like the Liang family's 3rd young masters. Indestructible martial arts revered. Please add Indestructible martial arts revered to make it easier to read in the future. If you have any suggestions for the Indestructible martial arts revered, please send a message to the administrator. Collect all kinds of fantasy and fantasy novels for you. Provide Indestructible Martial Lord Volume 2, Chapter 1577, War is Over, Master Black's Masterpiece. Chapter 1570. If I remember correctly, it's around here. A figure appeared in the shaman's land, seemingly searching for something. However, despite being a barren land, it was still very vast. This place was filled with mountain ridges and ancient forests. From time to time, terrifying beast roars could be heard coming from the mountains and forests. There were vicious beasts roaming about. Did that fatty Guzhong move somewhere else? This person wore the feather-flight immortal robe and a purple crown. He waved the 5 elements fire fan and wore cloud boots. His face was as smooth as jade. He was definitely a lady killer. However, Such a handsome person had an evil smile on his face. "You've really made it hard for me to find you." Tian shot into the sky and flew in another direction. He hadn't been here for 100 years and couldn't recognize the way anymore. It was as if the entire human city had been moved away. "Gu Zhong doesn't have this kind of ability." Tian flew high into the sky and looked down at the mountains and rivers below. Soon, he noticed something strange. It seemed that someone had artificially changed the terrain of this land. "What's going on?" After returning to the human world, Tian had already sensed the changes. The changes were so great that the great Tao of heaven and earth seemed to be within reach. This was definitely good news for cultivators. The human world had become more suitable for cultivation. For this reason, there had been many geniuses in the last 100 years. Some of the younger generation had even surpassed the older generation. This was a great era. The return of the primordial powers was inevitable. They wanted to make use of this era as well. Some wanted to become saints while others wanted the fruits of the way to become sovereigns. In such a great world, anything could happen. Perhaps even those super antiques that had disappeared for countless years would jump out at him. Some said that in this era, there was a high chance that someone would break through the limits of cultivation and become a saint. In this era, there might even be the birth of an extreme sovereign. However, this was only a legend. No one could find any proof. One had to know that this was a cycle of reincarnation. The peak of prosperity would decline, and the peak of decline would rise again. The last time this era descended, an extreme sovereign was born. However, this was something that happened at least hundreds of thousands of years ago, and it could be traced back to the later period of the prehistoric times. Can barren mountains and unruly rivers turn into a holy land? Tian flew in the sky, observing the general situation of the world. The more he saw, the more shocked he became. This place that cultivators were originally unwilling to step foot in was actually undergoing unimaginable changes. There was actually spiritual energy lingering between the mountain ridge and the old forest. Only Tian, who was proficient in the Tao of formations, would be able to tell that someone had deceived the heavenly mysteries and that there was a change in the direction of the earth. Moreover, this was a change that had only occurred in the last 100 years. The veins of the earth seemed to be gradually shifting. Tian could clearly feel that the earth essence of West Earth's Buddhism was gradually being devoured by the shaman land. Someone is actually plotting against the Buddhist sect. How interesting! The earth essence was gathering towards the shaman land. Sooner or later, this matter would be discovered by Buddhist Lord Green Lotus. At that time, a great battle would definitely be inevitable, but he didn't know who was so daring. It had to be known that the foundation of the Buddhist sect in the West Earth was too deep. Even the Beast Emperor Mountain and the Chaos Dragon Cave, which possessed extreme power, were not willing to easily provoke them. Following the direction of the earth, Tian quickly found the origin of this terrain. There was a large city there, a dark ancient city that emitted an endless aura of vicissitudes. What is the name of the Black Shaman? When Tian saw this ancient city, he was immediately overjoyed. This ancient city was the place he was looking for. In the past, there had only been one ancient city in the shaman land. The great formation that I laid down was actually broken by someone? When Tian approached, he was immediately shocked. There seemed to be a very faint smell of blood in the air, which made him vigilant. What's going on? Did someone break into the ancient city and slaughter Gu Zhong's entire family? The yin and yang essence around Tian's body was vast and mighty. A yin and yang Tao diagram faintly appeared on his body. Thinking of the changes in the shaman land, Tian became even more anxious. It seemed that someone was controlling everything in the shaman land. The terrain of the shaman land had changed, and Black Shaman's city was the source of all this. Marshal Uncle Black, how have you been? Just as Tian was about to enter the city, a voice came from the city. Then, a big fatty appeared in Tian's sight. You little fatty! Seeing this person, Tian secretly heaved a sigh of relief. This big fatty who walked out from the city was Gu Zhong, the disciple that Gu Fei had taken in the human realm. Gu Zhong was no longer the little fatty from back then. He now had the appearance of a middle-aged man. He had become a martial immortal in his middle age, so his appearance was forever fixed at that time. Little fatty, where's your teacher? He Tian had come to find Gu Fei, so he directly asked about Gu Zhong. Martial Uncle Black, let's talk inside. Gu Zhong invited He Tian into the city. Soon, He Tian's voice came from the city. Gu Zhong ran away? He Tian learned from Gu Zhong that Gu Fei had left 2 hours ago. It seemed that someone had sent something to Gu Fei, and he had left without saying anything. Why do I feel like there's some kind of conspiracy here? He Tian could not sit still, but he did not know where Gu Fei had gone. If something could lead Gu Fei away, could it be something related to the Taishan sect? In the human world, the thing that Gu Fei could not let go of the most was the missing disciples of the Taishan sect. If someone had really lured Gu Fei away, then those people would most likely attack, because their target was not Gu Fei, but Dark Shaman City. He Tian observed the situation of the world. He knew that the land of the shamans would go through a drastic change, and the source of all these changes would be the Shaman City. Shaman City. It was not a coincidence that this ancient city could still exist after so many years. It was a backup left behind by someone in ancient times. And this person was most likely the enemy of the Buddhists. Someone wanted to use the land of the shamans to attack West Earth, and this was a setup aimed at the Buddhists. Perhaps only those at the level of the extreme path could do such a great divine ability that could change the world. They're really here? Just as He Tian was in a state of shock and bewilderment, a powerful presence suddenly came from the distance. The shaman city was approaching. And it was not just one powerful presence. There were 9 powerful presences that appeared within He Tian's senses. These 9 presences did not bother to hide themselves and charged straight towards the shaman city. Interesting. I'd like to see just who are you? A hint of a mischievous smile appeared on He Tian's handsome face. Chapter 1571. The 9 experts emitted a monstrous aura as they approached Yanwu City. All living beings in the region felt a great pressure. Enemy attack! In Yanwu City, the disciples of the Gu family reacted immediately. In the ancient city, formation marks soared into the sky and intertwined above the ancient city. The Gu family had activated the City Protection Grand Formation. However, a part of the formation had already been destroyed by the Half-Step Saint. Part of the formation marks had been erased by the power of the Half-Step Saint, so its power had been greatly reduced. Rumble! Formation runes interweaved, and a powerful energy wave spread out from the ancient city in all directions. The great formation suppressed the surroundings, causing the void to tremble. Even though a corner of the formation had been destroyed by the Half-Step Saint, the formation still emitted energy waves equivalent to the Immortal Emperor realm, which could stop immortal emperors and Shin King. Someone had lured Gu Fei away, and then attacked the Gu family of the land of shamans. Gu Fei had left Yanwu City, but He Tian had come. At this time, 9 figures appeared outside the ancient city. The activation of the City Protection Grand Formation stopped them. Hasn't the formation been destroyed? What's going on? The 9 experts were bewildered. The energy wave coming from the formation was very strong. This kind of power was definitely at the Celestial Emperor realm. It was a power that surpassed the immortal realm. Uncle Hey, this? In the ancient city, Gu Zhong was incomparably nervous. Even his master, Bloody Massacre, couldn't stop the opponent. What kind of power was this? Even Gu Zhong didn't know what kind of power was targeting the Gu family. In the ancient city, the surviving disciples of the Gu family felt despair again. The aura of the newcomer was too strong. The Gu family couldn't fight against such an existence. It doesn't matter. They are just a few clowns. Watch how I deal with them. Mahakala laughed, and immediately activated the defensive formation. Countless beams of divine light burst out from the ground, and in the middle of the ancient city, a platform rose up, with a circumference of 30 feet. It was an ordinary formation platform that was not made of rare divine materials. However, This ordinary formation platform was surrounded by countless formation patterns. He Tian soared into the sky and landed on the platform. How can the formation that I, Old Black, set up be so easily broken? He Tian sat cross-legged on the array platform, his whole body covered with array patterns. He used his own array patterns to activate the entire protective array, regaining control of it. The incomplete runes on the platform were quickly replenished, and a peerlessly powerful aura spread out from the ancient city, shaking the heavens and earth. Outside Yanwu City, the 9 experts felt an extremely powerful pressure coming from the ancient city. The ancient city seemed to have turned into a huge mountain that stood in front of them. The information was wrong. The leader's face became very unsightly. They had already thought of a way to lure the fiend away, but the ancient city's protective array did not seem to be damaged. How was this possible? A half-step saint had already broken a corner of the formation. Could it be that the people of the Gu family had already repaired the protective array so quickly? Then do we continue? Someone hesitated. The ancient city's protective array was still intact. Even if they used their trump cards, it would still be difficult for them to break in. Moreover, if they damaged the ancient city, there would be serious consequences. Their only goal was to obtain the ancient city. Since we are already here, if we don't do something, we will inevitably be punished when we go back. That person's temper is not very good, said a tall old man. Hearing the old man's words, everyone fell silent. Buzz! The leader made his move. A divine sword flew out from behind him, emitting a sword cry that sounded like a dragon's roar and releasing a dazzling sword light. It was a dark green sword light, and it illuminated the entire sky with a pale green color. A powerful wood elemental force burst out from the sword light. Azure Wood Sword. Could it be an expert under Ancestry Mu of the East? In the sky above the ancient city, Guzhong was shocked when he saw the scene outside the city. The person who came was extremely powerful, and he was also a person with a great background. That person wielded the Azure Wood Sword, and a dark green sword light soared into the sky. It was like a heavenly sword, and it emitted endless killing intent as it slashed towards the ancient city in front of it. Swish! The shocking sword light broke through the void and split the heaven and earth. It was as if the sword had split the heaven and earth into 2 halves. This sword already possessed the power of a saint-level expert. A wisp of saint's power spread out from the sword light. Interesting. He Tian, who was sitting cross-legged on the platform, felt the power of this sword and couldn't help but feel surprised. He didn't expect these people outside the city to have such a method. He Tian directly slapped upwards on the platform. Endless power gathered in his palm, and it turned into a huge palm that was like a mountain, and it met the sword light that was slashing down. This was a huge palm that was surrounded by countless formation patterns. He Tian's attack had activated the power of the whole formation. Although it was just a palm, the entire sky shook under his palm. The huge palm and the sword light instantly collided, and the whole world suddenly became silent. Chapter 1572. Indestructible Martial Sovereign Volume 2 Chapter 1580. Killing a Powerful Emperor. Kill Almighty Emperor Eternal Martial Lord Chapter 1580. Indestructible Martial Sovereign Chapter 1580. Revenge Chapter 1580. Killing a Powerful Emperor. Xuanhuan Fantasy Indestructible Martial Sovereign Volume 2 Chapter 1580. Killing a Powerful Emperor. Return to Indestructible Martial Lord Catalog Volume 2 Chapter 1580. Killing a Powerful Emperor. Novel Name of Killing Almighty Emperor, Indestructible Martial. Sovereign Type, Xuanhuan Fantasy Indestructible Martial Sovereign Type, Xuanhuan Fantasy Indestructible Martial Sovereign. Remember, pure text, update quickly. 9 experts, every one of them was a powerful existence, some were even powerful emperors. This was a force so powerful that it made the Gu clan feel despair. City of Immortal Cultivators Supreme Treasure. Pure, such a force was enough to run amok in the human realm. These 9 experts were actually willing to be ordered around by someone else. This was something that even He Tian did not expect. It was hard to imagine who could order around such people. At this time, Haitian did not have time to think about these things. What he needed to do now was to defeat all 9 of them and resolve the Gu clan's crisis. Shwa! Outside the city, a tall almighty emperor made his move. He held a blood-colored divine spear in his hand and thrust it straight at Haitian, who was above the ancient city. It was a simple thrust, but it made Haitian feel danger. Mournful blood light soared tens of thousands of zhang, piercing through the heavens and the earth. In an instant, it pierced towards Haitian, breaking through layers of formation runes. Haitian's eyes flashed. He stretched out his right hand and pressed forward. Bang! A blood-red light collided with his hand. His palm was filled with formation runes. The power of yin and yang interweaved, and the qi of the great Tao permeated his hand. Destroy the mortal's cultivation! Tens of thousands of zhang of blood light exploded. A blood-red spear was sent flying. The elder soared into the sky and grabbed the divine spear that had been sent flying back. Then, he charged towards Mai Tian. An extremely horrifying aura swept through the surroundings. Buzz! At the same time, the sound of the sword rang out again. The azure wood sword flew up again, drawing upon the Yi-wood essence. It seemed to transform into an immortal sword light and flew towards Haitian. Even Haitian was moved by the 2 almighty emperors attacking at the same time. Free novel. Reckless fool! A grim smile appeared on Haitian's face. He waved his hands in front of him and streams of yin and yang essence qi transformed into formation runes, which he branded in the air. Rumble! The entire world shook. From all directions, spiritual energy crazily gathered towards Haitian. A massive yin-yang Dao diagram appeared in the skies above the ancient city. Streams of yin and yang essence energy fell down from the yin-yang Dao diagram in the sky, protecting Haitian within. Whether it was the azure wood sword or the crimson divine spear, none of them could break through. The yin and yang essence qi had turned into matrix patterns and activated the power of the Great Path. At this moment, Haitian was already in an invincible position. The 2 almighty emperors were forced to retreat. Everyone was shocked to the extreme. How can we fight like this? Some people could already see that Haitian had activated the power of the entire world. His body was one with the matrix. Every move he made was filled with great power. It was the legendary unfettered world. The land of the sorcerer had changed. It was no longer a barren land. In the eyes of a matrix master like Haitian, the general trend of the world could be used by humans. For a matrix master, such a place was absolutely advantageous. Let's go! Without hesitation, the leader saw that the situation was hopeless. He immediately put away the azure wood sword and wanted to retreat. The other side was too strong. It was difficult to break through the ancient city. The other almighty emperors also retreated into the distance. You think you can come and go as you please? Haitian was not happy. As he moved his mind, all the matrix patterns that he had imprinted in the void appeared in an instant. The whole world suddenly changed color. The whole earth trembled. The power of the veins of the earth hidden in the depths of the earth outside the ancient city was activated. Ridges quickly rose from the ground, like giant dragons swimming on the earth. What? The 9 great experts were completely stunned. What kind of technique was this? It was changing the world. The general trend of the world was already in the hands of the other side. This was a killing tribulation of heaven and earth. It was extremely terrifying. Bam! A stream of essence qi from the earth rushed out from the depths of the earth and turned into a giant dragon. It directly swallowed the almighty emperor. Even a powerful almighty emperor could not withstand a single blow from the essence qi of the earth. Cultivation rampage. The remaining 8 cultivators could not help but gasp when they saw this scene. Buzz! The middle-aged cultivator in the lead activated the azure wood sword and slashed forward. He broke through the layers of power of the earth and actually broke a hole in the general trend of the world. This almighty emperor was fighting with his life. After slashing out with the sword, he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Although this sword had broken the sure-kill situation, it had also injured his vitality. Open for me! The tall elder wielded the crimson divine spear and charged forward. Wherever the divine spear went, the heavy earth chi was dispersed. It was unstoppable. The two almighty emperors had successfully killed their way out. Chapter 1573. Tian displayed a great divine ability and killed 7 of the 9 powerful warriors who came to attack him on the spot. He chased away 2 almighty emperors. His power was so great that it could shock the world. The 2 almighty emperors might have escaped, but who was Tian? He would not let those 2 people go. He wanted to know who was behind all of this. Hence, Tian also left Shaman's city and followed behind the 2 almighty emperors without anyone noticing. They came to a place filled with spiritual aura. This place was different from the others. There was a dragon vein under the ground and the aura of the earth rose. It was a rare land for dragons to hide in. This surprised Tian. He did not expect to see such a place right after he entered Middle-earth. There must be a powerful force of power in this place. It was definitely not a place without a master. When the 2 almighty emperors were about to enter the land of hidden dragons, Tian knew that if he did not attack now, he would not have the chance to do so. However, just as Tian was about to attack, a person suddenly walked in front of the 2 almighty emperors. He only saw a flash and the heads of the 2 almighty emperors flew into the air. What? Tian was shocked. This person was too terrifying. He killed 2 almighty emperors with just one move. Those were not ordinary almighty emperors, they were almighty emperors. Only powerful warriors who were above the 5th heaven of almighty emperors had the right to be called almighty emperors. The 5th heaven of almighty emperors was a dividing line. The 2 people who lost their heads rolled on the ground. The blood of the almighty dyed the ground red. It was the blood of an almighty, and contained a large amount of spiritual essence. However, that person just let the spiritual essence flow out, and did not even spare a glance at it. Grand Elder Gu? When Tian saw that person's face clearly, he was shocked again. The person who killed the 2 almighty emperors was Gu Fei, the person he was looking for. Come out! After Gu Fei killed the 2 almighty emperors, he glanced at the place where Tian was. He had already sensed Tian's presence. Boss is mighty! Tian walked out of his hiding place with some embarrassment. In front of Gu Fei, he knew that it was impossible for him to hide and not be discovered by Gu Fei. As the 2 of them walked together, Tian finally understood why Gu Fei was here. Someone had made use of the hidden dragon ground to set up a killing trap and lured Gu Fei in. However, Gu Fei had directly displayed his unparalleled combat strength and fought his way out of the hidden dragon killing trap. Using the power of the world here to set up a killing trap? Tian was extremely shocked. Those who secretly wanted to plot against Gu Fei were really generous. It should be known that in the human realm, a place that contained a dragon vein under the ground was very rare. However, the hidden dragon ground here was not the same as the hidden dragon ground in the past. This hidden dragon ground had just formed, and a small dragon vein had been born under the ground. Gu Fei did not destroy this hidden dragon ground. On that day, someone brought a corner of a bloody robe, which shocked Gu Fei greatly. Because Gu Fei recognized that corner of the bloody robe, it was Zhao Ziru's robe. When the Taishian sect suffered a great calamity, the fate of a group of people was unknown, and they disappeared. This time, when Gu Fei returned to the human realm, his biggest wish was to find the people of the past. As soon as he appeared in the sorcerer land, someone brought Zhao Ziru's bloody robe, which really shocked him to the extreme. Zhao Ziru was a name that had been sealed in his heart for 100 years. The beautiful figure of the past gradually became clear in his heart. Without hesitation, Gu Fei left the sorcerer city. This matter concerned Zhao Ziru's life and death, and it was difficult for him to remain calm. However, he also knew that someone must have wanted to lure him away. Although he knew that those people were up to no good, Gu Fei still went. However, Gu Fei still had a backup plan. Even if someone came to attack the Gu family after he left, the Gu family still had a way to protect themselves. However, The appearance of He Tian made Gu Fei's backup plan useless. Why did someone want to attack the Gu family of the Sorcerer Land? This was what Gu Fei wanted to know. After all, he had taken in Gu Zhong to pass on the bloodline of the martial ancestor. If you dare to touch my disciple, then you must pay the price. After Gu Fei talked with He Tian for a while, he and He Tian went back into the land of Hidden Dragon. They wanted to find some clues. The people who attacked in the dark were very mysterious. They only used a weak cultivator to lure Gu Fei here, and then someone else secretly killed him. This despicable act completely angered Gu Fei. The land of Hidden Dragon, what a pity! As He Tian walked in, he kept shaking his head. The essence of the land of Hidden Dragon had leaked out, and was lured out by someone. The dragon aura under the ground was almost useless. Some of the undulating mountain ranges nearby had already been completely destroyed. This was Gu Fei's masterpiece. This was a very dangerous trap, and he had no choice but to break it. The terrain of the land was destroyed. It was difficult to gather spiritual aura from all directions. Even the spiritual aura that had already gathered could no longer be locked. Once the dragon aura under the ground disappeared, this spiritual land would completely lose its spiritual aura, and the area around it would become a barren land. Nothing was left behind in this trap. The rune had collapsed, and nothing could be seen. The people in the dark were very careful and did not leave any loopholes behind. Gu Fei and He Tian were the last to leave this area and return to the shaman city. With their current level of cultivation, it would only take them less than an hour to return to the shaman land from the middle of the plains. When night fell, they appeared in the shaman city. Once Gu Fei returned to the shaman city, he immediately pulled Gu Zhong into the secret chamber, and branded the second half of the martial scripture into Gu Zhong's heart. In the past, Gu Fei had only given the first half of the martial scripture to Gu Zhong. Now, he also gave the second half of the martial scripture to Gu Zhong, merging the martial scripture into one. Gu Zhong had obtained the complete legacy of the martial arts. At that moment, he could be considered as the true successor of the martial arts. While Gu Fei was giving the martial scripture to Gu Zhong, He Tian was flying around to observe the situation in the world. He wanted to know why those people were so determined to obtain Shaman City. He Tian became more and more shocked. Shaman City was incredible. It seemed to be the eye of a rune that was set up with 100,000 lis of shaman land, and the mountain ridges were like rune patterns. This sort of spending was too terrifying. It was practically going against the will of the heavens, and they did it without fear. Besides, this was a trap that had been set up since ancient times, and it was targeted at the Buddhists of Western Earth. They'd been preparing for this for countless years, and now they're going to take action? He Tian stood in the sky above Shaman City, and a brilliant light would occasionally shine in his eyes. He knew that unless the Gu family moved away, or else, that force of power in the dark would definitely not let the matter rest. The ancient legacy. Interesting. He Tian smiled. Chapter 1574. Please remember the domain name of this site. Or here, a mysterious ancient inheritance had set its eyes on the Gu family. This was definitely a disaster for the Gu family. Such an inheritance had existed for countless years and possessed a deep foundation that no one else could compare to. No one knew the details of this mysterious inheritance, but the power it displayed made Gu Fei and He Tian somewhat afraid. The experts under the Eastern Imu ancestors' tutelage were all under the control of the opponent. Gu Fei had killed the Imu ancestor and formed a grudge with the Eastern demon ancestor. However, Gu Fei acted according to his heart. Whether it was the Eastern Imu ancestor or the Western Buddha, as long as they dared to provoke him, he would blow them up with a single punch. This time, Gu Fei was not interested in the spoils of war. Only the ebony sword was slightly better. Even the red divine spear was not as good as the ebony sword. The ebony sword was a quasi-sacred weapon suitable for people who cultivated in the wood element. Gu Fei learned about the current situation in the human world from Gu Zhong. In the past 100 years, the forces of the ancient desolation had returned, and the major regions of the human world had ushered in a period of prosperity. A great era had arrived, and all kinds of experts had risen rapidly, their names shaking the human world. In the East, an invincible expert of the demon clan had appeared. He was called the Demon Ancestor. Some people said that he was a great demon cultivated from an ancient divine tree. The Emu Ancestor was in existence among the demon clan that could contend with the demon Lord Huan Long. Two forces had appeared among the demon clan, and there were signs of a split. The water in the human world was very deep, and even Gu Fei's heart palpitated. Moreover, in this great era, all the big figures and old antiques would jump out to fight for the luck of this era. Such a great world was filled with challenges. Just thinking about it caused Gu Fei's blood to boil. He was a martialist, a natural-born fighter. The east of the human world was originally the territory of the Taishian sect, but the place where the Taishian sect was originally located had now turned into a terrifying Devil's Denver. With the Devil's Den as the center, the area with a radius of 100,000 miles had already become a Devil's Den. Devil Qi lingered there, and an indestructible demonic nature enveloped the entire area. Anyone who entered the Devil's Den would be in danger of being demonized. In the east, there were still some matters that required Gu Fei's attention. Gu Fei wanted to leave, but He Tian came back and told him a few things, making it temporarily impossible for him to leave. There was actually an ancient inheritance that had its eyes on the Gu clan. This was a very serious matter. If he left, the mysterious ancient inheritance would immediately arrive. At that time, the entire Gu clan would be annihilated. What should we do? In the city lord's mansion, both Gu Fei and He Tian felt troubled. There were so many ancient inheritances, but no one knew which one it was, unless the other party jumped out. Gu Zhong suggested that the Gu family move away. However, both Gu Fei and He Tian were somewhat displeased. Their own disciples were actually being forced to move their entire family. This was not something to be proud of. It had to be said that Jianwu City was very important to that mysterious ancient inheritance. Just as the moon was in the middle of the sky, a figure stepped on the moon and approached from afar. He's here again. In the city lord's mansion, 2 rays of light shot out from Gu Fei's eyes. He stood up from his seat and emitted a battle intent. Finally, a decent opponent has arrived. He Tian also waved the 5 elements fan and stood up. The person from afar had already arrived outside the ancient city, standing in the air above the city gate. He did not barge in. Pass down the sacred emperor's order. You all are to leave the divine city. Everything that happened in the past will be forgotten. The person transmitted his voice into the ancient city. Everyone in the city could clearly hear this voice. It was not loud, but it spread throughout the entire region. What a big tone, sacred emperor! A sneer rang out from the ancient city, and a figure walked out from the city. It was a young cultivator waving the 5 elements fan. This young cultivator was very handsome, and he wore the Yuhua immortal robe, which was rarely seen in the mortal world. This young cultivator was He Tian. The person standing in the air in front of the city gate was also a young cultivator. However, this person's blood and qi were incomparably vigorous. An old monster. He Tian glanced at the person and said disdainfully, "What did you say?" The young cultivator's thick eyebrows immediately stood up. His eyes flashed with an ominous glint, and the blood and qi he exuded became even more vigorous. "If you want to live, then hurry up and scram. Then call that sacred emperor over and let me beat him up to vent my anger." He Tian swore. "You! How dare you!" The young cultivator was very angry. This guy in front of him dared to disrespect the sacred emperor. He deserved to die, and his entire family should be executed. Buzz! A saber rushed out from the young cultivator's body and was held in his hand. It was a bronze saber with copper stains on it. Clearly, it was an ancient item. "Aren't you ashamed to take out this kind of scrap metal?" He Tian's disdain increased, as if he didn't care about the young cultivator at all. However, he was secretly on guard. The bronze saber in the young cultivator's hand was not ordinary. Die. There was nothing more to say. The young cultivator also knew that he had no choice but to act. The sacred emperor had sent him here to exterminate this group of people who dared to occupy the divine city. He had an item bestowed by the sacred emperor. With that item, he was confident that he could sweep away all opponents in the world. Swish! The young cultivator slashed out with his saber. A resplendent saber light immediately rushed out from his hand, cutting through the void. Wherever the saber light passed, it left behind a pitch-black spatial crack. Peak Almighty! When He Tian saw the saber coming, his pupils couldn't help but shrink. Although it was only a single saber strike, it displayed the battle power of a Peak Almighty. Humph, I will let you know what it feels like to beg for death. A cruel smile appeared on the young cultivator's face. I'm so scared. He Tian pretended to be frightened, then fanned out one fan after another. Boom! A fire suddenly rushed out from the five-colored divine fan in his hand. In an instant, it enveloped the entire world in front of him, engulfing the Peak Almighty in a sea of fire. The air seemed to have been set ablaze. An extremely pure divine flame burned the void, causing it to collapse. It was extremely terrifying. Roar! The angry roar of the Peak Almighty came from the sea of fire. A saber light slashed out from the sea of fire, still falling towards He Tian's head. Swish! He Tian soared into the sky, dodging the saber. He fanned the divine fire fan in his hand repeatedly. A terrifying fire essence erupted from the divine fire fan, the fire illuminating the entire sky. Layers of fire enveloped the Peak Almighty and burned him. I'm so angry! A furious roar came from the sea of fire. Then, a terrifying saber light suddenly appeared from the sea of fire and swept out in all directions. Under the saber light, the layers of fire were directly extinguished by the saber chi. The Peak Almighty rushed out of the sea of fire, his whole body smoking, his beard and hair burned, his clothes tattered, as if he had crawled out of a rubbish dump, his face black. Ha! Where did this charcoal head come from? Seeing the sorry state of this Peak Almighty, He Tian immediately laughed. For the latest and fastest chapters, please log in. Reading is a pleasure, I suggest you collect it. Chapter 1575. Welcome, everyone. Roar! The pinnacle mighty figure was enraged after being burned by He Tian. Two beams of divine light shot out from his pitch-black face. If looks could kill, He Tian would have died many times over. I'm going to tear you into pieces and suppress your soul in purgatory for 10,000 years. The wretched pinnacle mighty figure gritted his teeth. He wanted nothing more than to tear He Tian into pieces. Buzz! The ancient bronze saber in his hand vibrated, and ancient patterns began to appear on the bronze-stained saber. Those patterns seemed to be formed naturally and interweaved with the Tao rhythm. Sage artifact? The extraordinariness of the ancient bronze saber made He Tian's heart tremble. Swoosh! The pinnacle mighty figure did not hesitate to expend his yuan qi to activate the ancient saber in his hand. A saber qi that was 10 times stronger than the previous saber radiance rushed out from the ancient saber. A terrifying aura spread out from the ancient bronze saber. The void between heaven and earth was instantly torn apart by the saber radiance. A wave of sage power erupted from the saber radiance, destroying everything as it landed on He Tian's head. Swoosh! When the saber radiance landed, He Tian's body suddenly turned blurry. He left an afterimage on the spot, but his real body had already moved 100 feet away. Whoosh! He held the divine fire fan in his hand and fanned at the pinnacle mighty figure. Flaming birds rushed out of the fan and flew towards the pinnacle mighty figure. These were the shadows formed by the fire essence contained in the fan. They were the legendary three-legged golden crows that were born from the sun star. Every flaming bird contained terrifying fire elemental power. The pinnacle mighty figure's ancient saber spun, and a wave of saber chi swept out, destroying all the flaming birds that pounced towards him. Moreover, the remaining power did not diminish as it continued to slash towards He Tian. Although He Tian did not practice the 8 desolate steps, his yin-yang steps was also a technique that allowed him to display extreme speed. Every step he took was a yin and a yang. The yin and yang interchanged and changed unpredictably. With a turn of his body, he disappeared on the spot. The next moment, when he reappeared, he had already rushed into the sky and arrived above the peak almighties. Boom! The power of endless yin and yang erupted from He Tian's body. A yin-yang Dao diagram appeared behind him, and the power of yin and yang turned into an ancient cauldron that pressed downwards. Rumble! The entire world was shaking. The ancient cauldron formed by the interweaving yin and yang Dao patterns was exactly the same as Gu Fei's mountain and river cauldron. It activated the power of the great path of yin and yang, suppressing the world in all directions. A praying mantis trying to block an arm. You don't know your place. The pinnacle almighty sneered. He raised his saber and slashed upwards. The powerful saber chi shook the heavens and the earth. It broke through the layers of yin and yang essence chi and slashed at the yin and yang cauldron that was pressing down. Boom! Without any suspense, the yin and yang cauldron was smashed by the saber. The yin and yang Dao patterns dissipated, and He Tian was sent flying high into the sky by this attack. At this moment, the pinnacle almighty suddenly realized that after He Tian flew high into the sky, he had actually disappeared. This surprised him. How is this possible? The bright moon was in the sky. There wasn't even a cloud in the sky. It was empty. He Tian had really suddenly disappeared. This made the pinnacle almighty feel uneasy. I want you to have nowhere to hide! The pinnacle almighty roared angrily. A divine light rushed out from between his eyebrows. A divine eye appeared there and emitted a strange wave. It was a divine eye that seemed to be able to see through the 3 realms and 6 paths. There were Dao patterns interweaving inside it. It scanned in all directions, trying to find He Tian. Bang! At this moment, a fist suddenly appeared behind the pinnacle almighty. It hit the back of his head and almost exploded his head. The pinnacle almighty was sent flying. Your head is really hard! A voice sounded in the void. He Tian's figure seemed to directly walk out of the void. He swung his fist as if he was in great pain. Arg! I'm going to kill you! The pinnacle almighty was ashamed and furious. He was almost angered to death. His opponent was humiliating him. He didn't take him seriously at all. His methods were despicable and shameless. Can you kill me? He Tian said disdainfully. The pinnacle almighty's anger burned the 9 heavens. He stabilized his body and felt a wave of dizziness. His head was in so much pain that it felt like it was going to split open. Even his soul was shaken. I'll fight it out with you! The pinnacle almighty was furious. He patted the top of his head and a divine light rushed out. Within the divine light, a divine picture rose up and emitted a peerlessly powerful and terrifying aura. This is... He Tian's expression became solemn. The divine picture rose into the sky and instantly enveloped the entire world. A terrifying wave that could shock the heavens spread out from the divine picture. The power of a great saint! In the sky above the ancient city, Gu Fei was also shocked when he saw this scene. He didn't expect those people to even bring such a sacred object refined by a great saint. The surging sacred power seemed to crush the world. Countless Tao patterns appeared on the divine picture and intertwined. The sacred power was vast and mighty, and all the creatures in the entire sorcerer land trembled. Die! The pinnacle almighty went crazy. He activated this sacred object refined by a great saint at all costs. The divine picture sealed the world and blocked all escape routes. This, Mahakala was astonished. He had never imagined that the other party would actually have a sacred artifact that had been refined by a great saint. This divine diagram was incredible. If it was truly suppressed, even 10 Mahakalas would be annihilated. Swoosh! An almost transparent sword light rushed out from He Tian's body and protected him in the sword light. This was an invisible divine sword and also a holy weapon. However, the divine picture was a supreme sacred object refined by a great saint. The sacred power of a great saint was vast and boundless. It suppressed the sword chi of the invisible divine sword. Buzz! The invisible divine sword was shaking. This divine sword was actually afraid. The great saint and the saint were two different levels. The great saint was a supreme existence that was only one step away from the extreme path of Supreme Master. In front of a great saint, a saint was like a harmless child. How could a child fight against an adult? Boss, help! Tian felt danger. A great pressure came down from the divine picture in the sky. He almost couldn't straighten his back. If it wasn't for the invisible divine sword protecting him, the great saint's aura that swept down from the divine picture would be enough to kill him several times over. If nothing unexpected happened, it seemed that it was only a matter of time before Tian was suppressed. No one can save you! The Pinnacle Almighty roared. The humiliation that Tian gave him could only be washed away with Tian's blood. He was determined to suppress this abominable guy. This divine picture was a sacred object given by the Saint Emperor. This was what the Pinnacle Almighty relied on. With this divine picture, even if his opponent was a half-saint, he could suppress him. Chapter 1576. Welcome to Rumble. The terrifying power of the great saint level was vast and mighty. A divine map that sealed the heavens and the earth descended from the sky, crushing the void of the world. It was peerlessly terrifying. Reading on the internet. Boss, if you don't act now, I'm going to die again. Tian sensed extreme danger. The power of a great saint could definitely threaten his life. Even if he had a saint weapon to protect himself, it would be difficult for him to escape death. No one can save you! The peak expert roared. He had been continuously humiliated by Tian and was close to going crazy. He activated the divine diagram without any regard for the price, wanting to suppress Tian. Buzz! The formless divine sword trembled, releasing a wave of saint-tier sword chi to resist the terrifying power descending from the sky, temporarily protecting Tian. Really? Just as the divine diagram was about to completely suppress them, an emotionless voice suddenly rang out from the sky above the ancient city. A shocking battle intent descended. Even the divine diagram of the great sage could not block this battle intent. What? Although the Peak Almighty was on the verge of going crazy, the battle intent shocked him because he knew how terrifying this god diagram was. This was a complete supreme holy artifact. It was not something that those incomplete holy artifacts could compare to. He had once seen their Saint Emperor use this divine diagram to suppress a monstrously terrifying demon. Swoosh! Just as the Pinnacle Almighties were bewildered, a sword light suddenly slashed out from the ancient city. The sword light wasn't very powerful, but it emitted an extremely dangerous aura. This is... The peak expert's heart trembled. He felt uneasy. Roar! He roared angrily, and his entire body emitted brilliant divine light. Divine patterns of the Great Path circled around him, condensing the power of the Great Path. Vast power poured into the diagram in the sky. At this moment, the diagram displayed an unprecedentedly powerful aura. Countless great saint-class Tao patterns appeared on the divine diagram, and Tao patterns were constantly being activated. The divine diagram emitted horrifying energy waves. However, the powerful force could not stop that sword light. That sword light seemed to be invincible. It directly broke through the seal of the great saint-level power, and a corner of the divine diagram was cut by the sword light. How is this possible? The Pinnacle mighty figure couldn't believe what he was seeing. This was a complete great sage-level relic, but a corner of it was actually broken. Countless great sage Tao patterns were collapsing. In front of this sword light, everything seemed to become weak. Wherever the sword light passed, nothing could stop it. When the divine diagram was damaged, the power radiating from it immediately weakened by more than half. Kill! Tian let out a loud roar. He used all his strength to control the invisible godly sword and slashed upwards. A nearly transparent sword light soared into the sky and ruthlessly slashed at the godly diagram. Boom! The heavens and the earth shook. The divine painting blocked Tian's sword, and Tian took advantage of this opportunity to rush out from under the divine painting, escaping from danger. Swoosh! At this moment, a figure walked out from the ancient city. With just one step, that person rushed under the divine painting and caught the sword light in his hand. Buzz! A sword chime sounded, and a terrifying sword aura wave emanated from the godly sword in that person's hand. Even the power of a great sage level could not suppress this sword aura. What is this? The pinnacle mighty figure was shocked to the extreme. The godly sword in this person's hand could actually break through the seal of the great sage level power. This was too unbelievable. Could it be a divine weapon of the great path? Swoosh! That person attacked again. There was no divine power of the great path. It was just a simple sword, but it broke through the layers of seal power and directly pierced through the divine painting in the sky. Wah! The divine painting was pierced, and that pinnacle mighty figure suffered a great impact. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his entire body immediately became exhausted. Gu Fei made a strong move. With just one sword, he destroyed the complete divine painting of the great sage. Under the blade of the purple gold divine sword, only another divine weapon of the great path could contend against it. Although the divine painting of the great sage was powerful, how could it compare to the divine sword of the great path? After the divine painting was pierced by the sword light, it rapidly shrank. The terrifying aura of the great sage level retreated like the tide. In the end, the divine painting turned into the size of a palm and floated down from the sky. I want this thing! At this moment, Haitian jumped out from nowhere and snatched the palm-sized divine painting in his hand. No! The pinnacle mighty figure could not accept this reality. One should know that this was a supreme holy item bestowed by the Saint Emperor. How could it be destroyed in his hands? Even if he could escape, he would definitely end up in a miserable state. Thinking of the Saint Emperor's methods of punishing sinners, the pinnacle mighty figure could not help but shiver. No wonder the half-sage Qin could not take down this ancient city the last time. It seems like we have seriously underestimated this guy called Gu Fei. He wanted to snatch the divine painting back, but there was already a killer staring at him from below. You can go and die now! Gu Fei shouted and directly rushed up to the sky with his sword. He was filled with murderous intent towards the pinnacle mighty figure in the sky. A dangerous aura had already enveloped the pinnacle mighty figure. The pinnacle mighty figure turned around and left. He could not be bothered to snatch the divine painting anymore. However, he had once again underestimated Gu Fei's speed. He did not know that Gu Fei possessed the fastest speed in the world. Just as he rushed out thousands of feet away, Gu Fei had already caught up with him. Swoosh! A purple gold sword light rushed out from Gu Fei's hand and rushed towards the pinnacle mighty figure. No! The pinnacle mighty figure was scared out of his wits. He ran for his life. However, no matter how fast he was definitely not faster than Gu Fei. The purple gold sword light swept towards him from behind. The pinnacle mighty figure only felt his body turn cold for a moment. Then, he could no longer feel anything. His physical body and primordial spirit were instantly destroyed by the purple gold sword light. Just as Gu Fei killed the pinnacle mighty figure, a figure sitting on a mountain in a celestial spirit land in Central Plains suddenly opened his eyes. Who is it? Who dares to destroy my divine painting? There seemed to be stars floating in that person's eyes. It was as if the universe was evolving in his eyes. His entire person exuded a unique presence, as if he was a supreme god looking down on all things in the world. This was a peerless and powerful existence. After Gu Fei killed the pinnacle mighty figure, he returned to Shaman City. Things had become even more serious. The mysterious ancient legacy seemed to want to obtain Shaman City at all costs. This was not a good thing. This time, the other party had even used a great saint-level divine painting. No one knew what kind of even more terrifying and powerful methods they would use next time. Chapter 1577. Please remember the domain name. Or here, Gu Fei had destroyed the great sage divine diagram and killed that expert. He knew that the other party would make a move soon. One must know that a complete great sage divine diagram was incomparably precious. The great sage divine diagram was pierced by the violet gold godly sword, and the great sage Tao pattern on it was almost destroyed by Gu Fei. However, the remnant Tao pattern could still gather the power of the great Tao. This divine diagram with a hole in it was taken away by He Tian. Although it was a broken divine diagram, under He Tian's practice, it could still display the power of a saint. The night passed peacefully. Inside Yanwu City, it was very quiet. The residents of the city had long fled, leaving only the Gu clan in the huge ancient city. The Gu clan had quite a number of people. After 100 years of recuperation, the Gu clan had grown to nearly 1,000 people. However, almost all of the experts of the previous generation of the Gu clan had fallen. The remaining people were all young cultivators, and their cultivation levels were not high. As for the 10 disciples that Gu Zhong had accepted, they were all killed in this battle. To Gu Zhong, this was undoubtedly a huge blow. One must know that he had spent a lot of effort on these 10 disciples. Almost 100 years of hard work had been wasted in a day. This was something that no one could accept. The sun rose from the east. The sun emitted a strong yang energy, dispersing the mist that shrouded the heaven and earth. The area around Yanwu City was frighteningly quiet. In this morning, not even the chirping of a bird could be heard, not to mention the roars of beasts that used to ring out from the forest. Rumble! In this morning, war chariots came from afar. Ferocious beasts roared, and an extremely horrifying aura spread across the heaven and earth. Flags fluttered in the wind, and war drums thundered. No one would have thought that the other party would arrive so quickly, and with such great momentum. It was like the legendary heavenly army of the heavenly court. Roar! The terrifying roar of the beasts shook the surroundings. Waves of powerful aura surged. In the sky above Yanwu City, countless figures appeared. All the members of the Gu clan in Yanwu City were extremely shocked. Boom! At this moment, a crack suddenly appeared in the sky above Mega City, and a shocking aura of death rushed out from the broken void. Roar! A terrifying demonic howl came from the gap in the void, as if a peerless death god was awakening. Groups of undead soldiers covered in death chi walked out of the shattered void, led by 3 peerless undead emperors. In an instant, the entire Mega City was enveloped by a terrifying power of death. This is undead creatures. What happened? The appearance of the undead creatures shocked the attacking soldiers. The aura of death filled the air. At this moment, Jiwu City had turned into a dead city. The Saint Emperor has arrived. Everyone in the city, come out and die! A loud voice resounded throughout the world. The person who spoke had a peerlessly powerful cultivation base. He was probably a half-step saint. Humph, it's better for your Saint Emperor to enter the city and die. A sneer came from the city. Audacious! Damn it! Hearing this, countless soldiers became extremely agitated. Some of the generals immediately shouted. Someone actually dared to be presumptuous in front of their Saint Emperor. They must be tired of living. What a grand display! Even the Heaven Emperor of the past was nothing more than this. Another voice resounded in the city, full of disdain. In the ancient city, Gu Fei, He Tian, and Du Zhong soared into the sky and stood in the sky above the ancient city. Behind them were groups of undead creatures. This was a force that Gu Fei had deliberately cultivated. At this moment, he only used this force. In fact, he wanted to use those fellows outside the city to train his soldiers. In the past, Gu Fei subdued the undead clan in the Hell Dao. After so many years, the undead clan had been left in the inner world by Gu Fei. These undead clan had been bored to death and could not wait to come out and get some fresh air. The Emperor of the Netherworld, the Corpse Emperor, and the Undead Emperor stood behind Gu Fei. As long as Gu Fei gave the order, they would rush out of the city. The 3 Undead Emperors were peerlessly powerful. Their strength was not weaker than Gu Zhong's. They were existences that were about to reach the almighty realm. They were far more powerful and terrifying than ordinary emperors. The ghostly figures, evil corpses, and skeletons all had the cultivation base of immortals. Among them, there was no lack of 9th heaven immortals. The force in Gu Fei's hands was comparable to the legendary heavenly soldiers of the heavenly court. It was not something that the miscellaneous troops outside the ancient city could compare to. The appearance of such a force caused the soldiers outside the city to be astonished. Kill! There was nothing more to say. Both sides had already formed an irreconcilable enmity. Gu Zhong's 10 disciples couldn't die in vain, and so could the Gu family members. Rumble! One after another, powerful figures rushed out of the ancient city. The whole world shook, and a monstrous death chi swept across the sky and the earth. In the ancient city, the clansmen of the Gu family had already been taken into Gu Fei's inner world. Fight! Outside the ancient city, battle flags fluttered in the wind. Groups of soldiers emitted a shocking battle intent as they advanced forward. These soldiers were also extremely powerful, because even the weakest of them could fly in the air. Only cultivators of the mortal realm of the royal void realm could soar into the sky and roam the world. It was as if 100,000 heavenly soldiers were charging. Their murderous aura changed the color of heaven and earth. The roar of the ancient beasts caused visible ripples in the void. Boom! With a huge tremor, both sides collided. Gu Fei's army of death pierced into the heavenly soldiers' battle formation like a divine sword. Countless heavenly soldiers were torn to pieces in an instant. The death chi devoured their lives. Even the immortal level soldiers couldn't resist and were directly crushed by the army of death. Someone discovered that the undead soldiers' bodies were flashing with formation patterns. Their life force was devoured by the death chi and turned into the power of the undead soldiers. Under this charge, thousands of heavenly soldiers fell in an instant. Their flesh and bones splattered in all directions. The blood didn't fall from the sky, but was absorbed by the undead soldiers. What? Someone saw the seriousness of the problem. These undead soldiers could devour the life force of heavenly soldiers to increase their fighting strength. Such a group of undead soldiers would become stronger the more they fought. Countless undead soldiers formed a battle formation. Countless formation patterns appeared on their bodies. A terrifying killing formation loomed between the heaven and earth. The killing formation emitted a peerless and terrifying aura. It was like an incomparably huge wheel of destruction. Wherever it passed, flesh and blood splattered and countless heavenly soldiers were torn to pieces. The smell of blood filled every inch of the void, causing people's scalps to go numb. For the latest and fastest chapters, please log in. It's a pleasure to read. I suggest you collect it. Chapter 1578. Please remember the domain name. The Saint Emperor's army had arrived, swearing to take over Jiwu City. It was like 100,000 celestial soldiers bearing down on the border, filling the entire area with a terrifying murderous aura. The flowers and trees in the surrounding area were all withering, the originally green leaves quickly turning yellow and falling from the trees. In the sky, a terrifying battle was unfolding. A formation diagram was faintly discernible in the sky, and a monstrous aura of death filled the air. Even the 100,000 celestial soldiers could not suppress it. How is this possible? All the generals were dumbfounded. They had led thousands of soldiers and fought for the Saint Emperor. There was nothing they had not seen before. But today, everything was beyond their imagination. Someone was actually using undead creatures to set up a formation. Every undead creature's body was emitting formation patterns, and these formation patterns were gradually becoming brighter and brighter. Within the formation, Tian sat cross-legged on a formation platform, his entire body glowing with divine light, like a supreme immortal descending from the 9 heavens. He was the one controlling this formation, killing in all directions. Below the formation platform, there was a broken divine diagram floating. This was the diagram that Tian had taken away after Gu Fei had killed the peak expert last night. More than half of the Tao patterns on the great sage's divine diagram had been destroyed by the violet gold godly sword. Although there were still many Tao patterns that were intact, the divine diagram's power had been greatly reduced. This divine diagram could only be considered a broken divine artifact, and was no longer the complete divine diagram of the great sage. Haitian had used this divine diagram to set up a killing formation, using it to suppress the formation's core. This caused the killing formation to display an even more terrifying power. Rumble. The killing formation was in operation, and under Haitian's control, the three undying emperors led countless undead creatures towards the celestial soldiers. Boom! Right at this moment, a loud sound rang out. The countless celestial soldiers also started to move. Squads of people and horses moved quickly. A peerless murderous intent began to gather. These celestial soldiers also had their own battle formations, and when countless of them gathered together, they formed a peerless battle formation that could change the color of heaven and earth. Kill! The heavenly soldiers' battle formation took shape. Countless heavenly soldiers, under the leadership of their generals, began to attack Haitian's killing formation. This was a battle formation against the killing formation. Celestial soldiers continuously fell from the sky, and then their essence chi was devoured by Haitian's killing formation. The more celestial soldiers he killed, the more power Haitian's killing formation gathered. Bang! A huge seal rushed out from the celestial soldiers' battle formation, smashing towards Mahakala's killing formation. The terrifying power of a saint exploded, and the entire world seemed like it was about to be smashed into a hole. Buzz! At the same time, the map fragment floating below Haitian's formation platform was shaking, and the void was rippling. Roar! The 3,000 undying generals roared and punched upwards in unison. A monstrous force collided with the incoming seal and sent it flying thousands of feet away. Among the heavenly soldiers, a mighty general coughed up a mouthful of blood. Fight! 100,000 heavenly soldiers shouted in unison, and with their spears in hand, they pierced towards Haitian's killing formation. This was a shocking power that even a saint would have to retreat in the face of. Boom! In the earth-shattering collision, Haitian's killing formation was shaken, and the hundreds of undead creatures on the periphery were instantly turned into ashes. Damn it! Gu Fei couldn't help but be shocked and angry when he saw this scene. The opponent's battle formation was very extraordinary, and it could actually shake Haitian's killing formation. Moreover, what made Gu Fei unwilling to act rashly was that the Saint Emperor they were talking about had not appeared yet. The person who dared to call himself a Saint Emperor was definitely peerlessly powerful. Otherwise, who would dare to use this title? I want to see who dares to call himself a Saint Emperor. Gu Fei held the violet gold divine sword in his hand as he sat cross-legged in the formation. He didn't make a move because he still couldn't sense the location of the Saint Emperor. The Saint Emperor seemed to be preparing for something, and didn't show himself. He only ordered his generals to fight with all their might. This was a shocking power that could run amok in the human realm. Unfortunately, they met Gu Fei. Gu Fei also had a powerful force in his hands. The undead army that came from the Hell realm was not to be trifled with. Kill! Without any unnecessary words, Haitian controlled the killing formation, and countless undead creatures attacked at the same time. The terrifying power turned into an immortal light of death that rushed into the heavenly soldiers' battle formation. Thousands of heavenly soldiers were swept by the light of death and turned into ashes in an instant. The light of death tore open a 10,000 feet long hole in the sky. The two forces continued to fight. Countless voices screamed and people fell. The sky above Jiwu City turned into a terrifying battlefield. There were constantly generals using their saint weapons. Rays of saint-level divine light rushed out from the heavenly soldiers' battle formation, sweeping towards Haitian's killing formation. The great sage divine diagram below Haitian trembled. The great sage Tao pattern on it was constantly being activated, emitting resplendent divine light and gathering the power of the great Tao. The tattered divine diagram of the great sage emitted the energy ripples of a saint. The divine diagram fused with the killing formation, forming an astonishing force. Under Mahakala's control, it clashed against the heavenly soldiers' battle formation. In terms of formations, Haitian's killing formation was filled with killing intent. With the great sage divine diagram as the core of the formation, it was much stronger and more terrifying than the heavenly soldiers' battle formation. However, many of the generals in the heavenly soldiers' battle formation had saint weapons. They used the power of the battle formation to activate the saint weapons. This was a peerless power. This was equivalent to using countless heavenly soldiers to display the greatest power of the saint weapons. From this, it could be seen that this mysterious ancient inheritance was really incredible. To be able to pass down such a battle formation, this kind of inheritance should not be unknown. However, Gu Zhong did not know the origin of the opponent. This seemed impossible. Although the waters of the human realm were deep, how could such a power be completely hidden without anyone knowing? One must know that Gu Zhong's wife was the previous generation's saintess of the Yaobai ancient Holy Land. With the power of the Yaobai ancient Holy Land, how could they not find some clues? Since this so-called saint emperor is not willing to jump out, then I will force him out. 2 rays of light shot out from Gu Fei's eyes. He stood up from the formation and directly waved the purple gold divine sword, slashing towards the outside of the formation. Swoosh! A ray of purple gold divine sword light rushed out from his hand, splitting the void between heaven and earth. It fell into the heavenly soldiers' battle formation, and the figures were silently annihilated under the purple gold divine sword light. This was a direct destruction of body and soul. It was the most thorough way of dying in the world. Even the imprint of life had been destroyed. Even ghosts could not be alive anymore. With just one sword, he directly killed over 1,000 heavenly soldiers. This caused everyone to be dumbfounded. What kind of sword light was this? It could actually break through the battle formation and kill the heavenly soldiers. For the latest and fastest chapters, please log in. Reading is a pleasure. I recommend you to bookmark it. Chapter 1579. Welcome, everyone. Gu Fei made his move. Even though the purple gold godly sword had yet to awaken, the unparalleled sword radiance emitted from the sword displayed an invincible and terrifying might. The sword radiance silently slashed into the battle matrix outside the killing matrix. Thousands of soldiers were instantly turned into ashes, completely destroyed in body and soul. Nothing was left behind. What kind of sword is this? All the generals were shocked. The power displayed by the sword in Gu Fei's hand was too terrifying. One sword strike was able to destroy thousands of soldiers. Even a saint would not be able to do such a thing. It should be known that the battle matrix formed by countless soldiers was filled with murderous intent. The terrifying power of a saint was condensed, and it could compete with the killing matrix formed by He Tian. This mysterious ancient inheritance was very powerful. The 100,000 celestial soldiers were mobilized. This kind of momentum was not something an ordinary force could achieve. Even the ancient antiquity forces would not be able to do so. Gu Fei's attack really shocked the other party. Boom! A powerful aura suddenly erupted from the 100,000 celestial soldiers. Beams of divine light shot up into the sky, piercing through the void. The terrifying might shocked the heavens. This was a power that could make all living beings tremble. Great saint weapon? Only a great saint weapon could produce such a level of power. A peerless figure was using a great saint weapon. The power of a great saint could shake the heavens and the earth. Swoosh! A divine arrow was shot out from the celestial soldier's battle matrix. The divine arrow immediately turned into a divine phoenix. It emitted monstrous divine fire, illuminating the entire heaven and earth. The divine phoenix directly rushed towards where Gu Fei was. In just an instant, it had already pounced in front of Gu Fei. A terrifying wave of heat spread out, causing Gu Fei to feel as though all the blood in his body had evaporated. He felt his mouth go dry. This is... He Tian, who was sitting cross-legged in the killing matrix, was shocked. This arrow was incredible. It had activated the power of the divine fire in the heavens. This divine fire seemed to be the Nanmingli fire. Could it be the legendary Nanmingli fire Bao? Gu Fei stared at the divine phoenix that was flying towards him, and his eyes narrowed involuntarily. The great saint energy contained within this arrow was not something that he could resist. Although it was difficult for him to resist this power, the extreme path's sacred weapon in his hand, could roar. Gu Fei bellowed and a huge cauldron emerged from his body, enveloping him within. An extremely ancient aura appeared in the world. This aura seemed to originate from the primordial chaos, causing one's heart to palpitate. Mountain and river cauldron, how is this possible? A voice rang out in the heavenly soldier's battle formation. The voice was filled with disbelief. The person in the battle formation recognized the illusory cauldron around Gu Fei. Boom! At this moment, the divine phoenix transformed by the divine arrow had already hit the ancient cauldron around Gu Fei. The power of the great saint level suddenly erupted. Countless undead soldiers around Gu Fei were shaken off. Even with the protection of the killing matrix, more than half of the undead soldiers turned into flying ashes on the way to the sky. Even He Tian's killing matrix could not resist the power of the great saint level. Preposterous! He Tian was furious. He sat cross-legged on the matrix platform and constantly took out rare divine materials from his body and threw them into the various matrix eyes of the killing matrix. Rumble! The power of the entire killing matrix was increasing rapidly. Countless undead soldiers rushed out of the bright matrix patterns. The matrix patterns were branded into the void, triggering the killing catastrophe of heavens. The battle cries were earth-shattering. He Tian controlled the peerless killing matrix and continuously attacked the battle formation formed by the 100,000 heavenly soldiers. The place where the killing matrix and the battle formation met had turned into chaos. The corpses of the heavenly soldiers constantly fell from the sky. The essence of heaven and earth frantically gathered towards He Tian's killing matrix. The matrix pattern seemed to have turned into a substance. After the undead soldiers were blessed by the power of the killing matrix, all of them were extremely fierce. The aura of death was terrifying. The undead soldiers rushed into the heavenly soldiers' battle formation and fought with the heavenly soldiers. Whoosh! The undying emperor took the lead and chopped a general into two with a single slash. The bone blade instantly devoured the general's essence, energy, and spirit. The netherworld emperor turned into thousands of ghost shadows. These ghost shadows directly pounced on the bodies of the heavenly soldiers. The eyes of the heavenly soldiers suddenly turned blood red. Then, they turned around and pounced on their companions behind them. This was the netherworld emperor's killing technique, ghost possession. The netherworld emperor cultivated the netherworld ghost path. Only he could use this killing technique to control the body of others to fight. The evil corpse emperor's body was extremely strong. He was like a tiger in a flock of sheep. His hands clawed wildly and hundreds of heavenly soldiers were directly torn apart. The essence of those heavenly soldiers were all devoured by the evil corpse emperor. Haha! Awesome! The evil corpse emperor bathed in blood and attacked crazily. His hands constantly tore apart the heavenly soldiers and devoured their spirit. This was the horror of the undead creatures. They could devour life essence to strengthen themselves. You pieces of trash that haven't died yet, go to hell! A roar was heard. An iron tower-like general, shining with divine light, rushed towards the evil corpse emperor with a pair of black iron axes in his hands. This was a powerful general. Every step he took in the void caused the entire void to tremble. A powerful murderous aura was emitted from this big man. Eat my axe! The iron tower-like general chopped his axe down on the evil corpse emperor. The black iron axe turned into a black light and set off a gust of wind, creating a spatial crack in the void. Come at me! The evil corpse emperor shouted. Corpse chi surged all over his body. He was like a peerless demon. His eyes emitted blood-red evil light. He did not retreat, but directly punched upwards. Clang! The sound of metal colliding was heard. The evil corpse emperor's fist collided with the black iron tower's divine axe. The evil corpse emperor actually resisted the axe with his fist. What? The black iron tower was shocked. This guy's fist was actually harder than divine iron? As the divine axe chopped down, the sound of metal rang out. Humph! The evil corpse emperor sneered. An even more powerful force erupted from his fist against the divine axe. The divine axe in the black iron tower's hand was immediately shaken away. Not good! Tai Ta was also a battle-hardened general. The moment the divine axe was sent flying, he knew it was bad. He didn't even think before retreating. However, it was already too late. The evil corpse emperor rushed forward and stretched out his left hand. He directly broke through the black iron tower's divine armor and stabbed into the black iron tower's chest. Roar! The black iron tower let out an earth-shattering roar. The divine axe in his other hand desperately chopped down at the evil corpse emperor. At the same time, the black iron tower's body erupted with a terrifying wave of power. An extremely ferocious power crazily expanded from his body. Self-destruct? The evil corpse emperor was shocked. He wanted to retreat, but the black iron tower's hand had already firmly grasped the hand that was stabbed into the black iron tower's chest. Boom! With a loud bang, the black iron tower's body exploded due to the destructive energy that erupted from his body. The terrifying energy swept across all directions. This was the self-destruction of an immortal emperor. The celestial soldiers and undead soldiers that were fighting in the surroundings were blown away by the force. This black iron tower was incomparably ferocious. He actually wanted to self-destruct to kill the evil corpse emperor. The evil corpse emperor was a grand completion deva sovereign, an existence that was only one step away from becoming a supreme expert. He had a body that was strong enough to resist divine weapons. Although the self-destruction of an immortal emperor was powerful, it couldn't kill the evil corpse emperor. Roar! Amidst the chaotic energy, the angry roar of the evil corpse emperor was heard. Although the evil corpse emperor didn't die, he still suffered a great impact. At this time, a small figure wrapped in divine light soared into the sky. It was the primordial spirit of the black iron tower. An immortal emperor expert wouldn't die so easily. As long as the primordial spirit wasn't destroyed, an immortal emperor expert wouldn't die. Trying to escape? The cold voice of the evil corpse emperor was heard. Endless corpse chi condensed into a giant hand of death. It rushed up from below and grabbed the divine light of the primordial spirit. Bang! Without any hesitation, the evil corpse emperor crushed the primordial spirit. Rays of divine light rushed out from his hand and entered his body. The primordial spirit of the gigantic black iron tower general was devoured by the evil corpse emperor just like that. After devouring the primordial spirit of the general, the impact of the evil corpse emperor was healed in an instant. The chi of death on his body was even stronger than before. Harvesting lives was the nature of the undead creatures, because this kind of existence needed the life force of living beings to strengthen itself. The evil corpse emperor had obtained great benefits, while the nether emperor and the undead emperor didn't lag behind. The life force of the celestial soldiers was incomparably strong, far beyond the average life force. Both the nether emperor and the undead emperor had devoured a large amount of life essence. The three emperors felt that the bottleneck of their cultivation had a sign of loosening, which surprised and delighted them. Then, they desperately harvested the life force of these celestial soldiers. The celestial soldiers' battle formation was gradually suppressed by Tian's killing formation. Countless celestial soldiers were constantly falling. Their life force was devoured by the undead creatures, and their bodies and souls were directly destroyed. There were also countless undead creatures that were killed by the celestial soldiers, and their soul fire was completely extinguished. However, the soul power of those beheaded undead creatures would also be devoured by Tian's killing formation and turned into the power of the killing formation. Therefore, the power of Tian's killing formation was still gradually increasing. The power fluctuations emitted by the killing formation were already close to the level of Great Sage. Mountain and River Cauldron, I didn't expect you to have the Mountain and River Cauldron. In the battle formation, the mysterious man didn't shoot a second arrow after shooting one. With the protection of an extreme sacred weapon like the Mountain and River Cauldron, even the divine weapon of a great sage couldn't break that kind of defense. At this time, Gu Fei finally sensed the location of the peerlessly powerful mysterious man. Kill! Without any hesitation, Gu Fei used the mountain and river cauldron to protect himself and held the purple gold divine sword. He directly rushed out of the killing formation and killed his way into the celestial soldiers' battle formation. Chapter 1580. Please remember the domain name of this website. Or at, Gu Fei was extremely powerful. He directly rushed out of the killing matrix with his sword and attacked the peerlessly powerful and mysterious existence in the battle matrix. Buzz! Countless celestial soldiers surrounded Gu Fei. The shadow of the cauldron of mountain and river outside Gu Fei shook, and all the celestial soldiers who rushed over were sent flying. This was not the divine might of the extreme great path. It was just that Gu Fei had activated a wisp of the power of the cauldron of mountain and river. Even so, the strength of its defense was shocking. Even an arrow shot by the great Saint Divine Bow could be blocked. The attacks of these celestial soldiers were like eggs hitting a stone. They were useless, and instead, they were smashing their heads and bleeding. Gu Fei rushed into the battle matrix as if he was invincible. With the divine sword in his hand, he swept in all directions. No one was a match for him. All the divine weapons and magic treasures were destroyed under the blade of the purple gold divine sword. No divine weapon or even divine weapon could withstand a blow from the purple gold divine sword. Although it did not have the divine might of the extreme great path, it was still a sword of the extreme great path. Its sharpness was not comparable to that of a divine weapon. When the sword slashed out, there was nothing that could block it. "You have a death wish!" A loud shout came from the depths of the battle matrix. Then, beams of divine light of the great path rushed out from the depths of the battle matrix. They intertwined in the void between heaven and earth. A torrential power surged out, as if a supreme great saint had awakened from a deep sleep. Bam! This force directly hit the faint and illusory big cauldron outside Gu Fei. The big cauldron shook, and Gu Fei was knocked thousands of feet away by this force. This is... Gu Fei stabilized his body in the void. He was extremely shocked. The force just now was too strong. It was even stronger than the divine arrow shot by the great Saint Divine Bow. Buzz! The faint and illusory ancient cauldron outside Gu Fei's body shook. The void rippled like water, and a powerful aura spread out from the big cauldron's shadow. So what if you have the extreme Tao sacred weapon? You can't even use it! A figure walked out from the depths of the battle formation. This was a peerlessly powerful existence. No one could see his appearance clearly. There was a layer of primal chaos swirling around his body. That's right, it was chaotic energy, an ancestral energy that was only one level lower than primordial chaos energy. This person was incredible to actually possess such ancestral energy. Be careful, it's the legendary chaotic Taoist body. At this time, He Tian's voice suddenly rang out in Gu Fei's mind. He Tian was transmitting his voice to him. He Tian had seen through this existence's physique. In ancient times, the world of cultivation was extremely prosperous. There were many nature-defying physiques, and the chaotic Taoist physique was one of them. It was a naturally powerful physique. People with this kind of physique could cultivate chaotic force in their bodies and be intimate with primal chaos. If this kind of physique matured, it would definitely be extremely powerful. You're the Sage Emperor. Gu Fei stared at the mysterious man, his battle intent surging. I'm not the Sage Emperor. The mysterious man's voice was very calm, but he had a temperament that was above all living beings. He was high and mighty, as if he didn't belong to the mortal world. What? Hearing this, Gu Fei couldn't help but feel a trace of unease. This guy was so powerful, but he wasn't the so-called Sage Emperor. Then where was the real Sage Emperor? At this time, a loud noise rang out in Yanwu City. The entire city was actually shaking. Then, on the surface of the city, ancient runes began to appear. Oh no! Gu Fei's heart trembled. Fortunately, he had taken the entire Gu clan into his inner world before he attacked. Otherwise, the entire Gu clan would probably be in trouble. At this time, Yanwu City had completely changed. Divine runes of the Great Path appeared on the surface of the city. Countless rays of divine light rushed out from the ancient city. Thousands of auspicious chi and immortal clouds floated in the air. The ancient city emitted a mighty aura that shocked both sides, who were fighting involuntarily stopped and stared at this scene with their mouths agape. You! Gu Fei pointed his sword at the mysterious cultivator in front of him. He was so angry that his voice was trembling. At this time, he knew that they had fallen into the opponent's trap. No one had thought of this. It seemed that the real sage emperor was in charge of all this. The opponent's cultivator had already infiltrated the ancient city and activated the runes of the great path in the ancient city. The entire ancient city seemed to have come back to life. It was as if a huge life form had awakened from a deep sleep. Then, the entire mountain range of the shaman land also began to shake. The dragon chi of the earth rose. The situation of the world in this barren land was changing rapidly. To change the situation of the world, if it was a natural change, the time needed would be astronomical. It would be calculated in tens of millions of years. But now, the terrain that needed tens of millions of years to form was being formed at a speed visible to the naked eye. This was a method that defied the natural order. It was stealing the creation of the world. Boss, I'm leaving! He Tian controlled the killing formation and sent a telepathic message to Gu Fei. The 100,000 miles of the shaman land was an eternal plan. It was left behind by the invincible cultivator in the ancient times. At this time, the entire 100,000 miles of the shaman land was undergoing a shocking change. The opponent was gradually controlling the situation of the 100,000 miles of the shaman land. Once the existence in the ancient city completely controlled the 100,000 miles of the shaman land, it would be difficult for them to escape unscathed even if they had the divine weapon of the Great Path. Gu Fei was very unwilling to retreat just like this. Eat my fist! Gu Fei put away the purple gold divine sword and used the yin-yang reincarnation fist with all his strength. His hands emitted endless yin-yang power. His fists instantly gathered unparalleled yin-yang true power. Bam! Gu Fei punched forward with his fists. Yin and yang coexisted. The two forces collided and intertwined, forming an even more powerful force. It rushed towards the mysterious man in front of him. The fist force shook the earth. Even the mysterious man was moved. Rumble! The mysterious man pushed his hands forward. Endless chaotic chi surged from his hands. His palms turned into two chaotic hands. Like two ancient divine mountains, they pushed towards Gu Fei's fist force. The two peerlessly powerful forces collided together. The space between the two of them was collapsing and turning into nothingness. This was a great destruction. Everything was completely destroyed. Nothing could be left behind. Gu Fei only felt a strong force colliding with him. He flew backward involuntarily. The mysterious man was also sent flying back into the heavenly soldier's battle matrix by Gu Fei's yin-yang fist force. The chaotic Tao body is indeed powerful. After colliding with the mysterious man, Gu Fei did not hesitate. He turned and rushed into He Tian's killing matrix. He then met up with He Tian and rushed out of the shaman land together. The human tribe's martial body is indeed extraordinary. The mysterious man walked out of the heavenly soldier's battle matrix again. For the latest and fastest chapters, please log in. Reading is a pleasure. I suggest you keep it. Chapter 1581. At this moment, Jiwu's city was already under the control of someone. The 100,000 miles of sorcerer land had undergone earth-shattering changes. The world was changing, and the mysterious ancient inheritance was finally obtained. This ancient inheritance was extremely powerful. It had 100,000 celestial soldiers, and they set up the celestial soldiers' battle formation to obtain the sorcerer land at all costs. The ancient inheritance that had been passed down thousands of years ago was activated. Every mountain in the sorcerer land was shaking, and the ancestral veins of the earth that had been sleeping for countless years began to awaken. At this moment, the chaotic Tao body that had collided head-on with Gu Fei walked out of the battle formation, and from 10 miles away, he threw a punch at Gu Fei, who had already returned to the killing formation. There was no divine power, no magic. It was just a punch, but it directly shattered a part of the void. Such power did not seem to be inferior to Gu Fei's martial arts. The chaotic Tao body seemed to have unimaginable power. It was not at the same level as ordinary constitutions. It was too powerful, like an innate divine being born from the chaos. It was just a punch, but it displayed the power of opening the sky. The punch shattered the void, and it gave people an incomparably shocking feeling. It actually wanted to use its own power to shake He Tian's killing formation. However, the power gathered by He Tian's killing formation was too strong. Even though it suffered such a powerful attack, it only shook a few times, and the power was dissolved. At this moment, the earth began to spurt out a monstrous amount of essence energy. Mountains were collapsing, and then the shattered heaven and earth were reforming. The reformed heaven and earth were extremely dense, and the immortal clouds and auspicious clouds lingered. Rumble! Seeing that its punch could not do anything to Gu Fei, the chaotic Tao body directly drove the celestial soldiers' battle formation and chased after Gu Fei and He Tian. In the sky, battle cries shook the heaven and earth, and the void was densely packed with figures. The terrifying battle formation gathered the heaven and earth's spiritual chi from all directions and turned it into combat power, emitting a terrible aura that made everything in the world tremble. Divine fire emerged from the formation, surging in the chaotic void. Then, a bright beam of fire, like a crimson lightning bolt, pierced through the void, broke through the chaos, and shot out. Countless flames shot towards Gu Fei and He Tian. It was as if the entire world had been set ablaze. With a flip of his hand, a crimson divine bow appeared in his hand. As if walking out of the void of chaos, he knocked an arrow and shot it. Swish! The arrow pierced through heaven and earth, smashed through the void, and shot into He Tian's killing formation in the blink of an eye. Then, the divine arrow exploded and a ball of fire swept out in all directions, blowing up hundreds of undead soldiers. Damn it! Gu Fei and He Tian were furious. They had already retreated, but these people still didn't let them go. They wanted to chase after them and beat them up. They couldn't take this. Roar! Gu Fei threw his head back and roared. His long hair fluttered wildly, and his almighty martial body erupted with a terrible fluctuation that swept through the world. Divine runes of the Great Path appeared on his body. In particular, the divine rune between his eyebrows emitted a terrible divine light, as if a heavenly eye had opened, and terrifying power gathered within it. Endless blood rushed into the sky and enveloped the sky. It was the blood of an ancient dragon, vigorous to the extreme, and swept out in all directions above Gu Fei's head. Swish! A beam of purple-gold divine light rushed out from the rune between Gu Fei's eyebrows, displaying great power. Beams of terrifying divine light swept out in all directions, piercing through the chaotic Tao body that was chasing after them. The chaotic Taoist body seemed to have sensed great danger and dodged in an instant. The divine light swept behind him. The hundreds of heavenly soldiers behind him were swept by the divine light and immediately turned into dust. Their bodies and souls were completely destroyed. This is... The chaotic Tao body's heart trembled. This was the divine light of destruction condensed by the power of the Great Path. If hit, even the chaotic Tao body would be seriously injured. The other heavenly soldiers and generals were all shocked to see this scene. Swish! 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 At this moment, figures rushed out from all over the sorcerer land, and a powerful aura erupted from the ancestral vein beneath the sorcerer land. That is... Seeing this, Gu Fei and He Tian could not help but be shocked. They never thought that there would be such a backup plan in the depths of the sorcerer land. Using the ancestral vein of the earth to nourish the war soldiers, this mysterious ancient method was indeed heaven-defying. The war soldiers from thousands of years ago had been nourished by the ancestral vein of the earth for countless years, and were extremely powerful. For figures rushed out from the endless essence chi of the earth. Haha, come, let's attack together, what's there to be afraid of? Gu Fei's fighting spirit was like a rainbow. He actually rushed out of the killing formation and attacked the chaotic Tao body. With the protection of the mountain and river cauldron and the purple-gold divine sword in his hand, he feared nothing. Boom! 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 At this moment, from the east, west, south, north, with Baowu City as the center, 4 loud sounds came from the ground in all 4 directions. Then, the ground in all 4 directions suddenly shattered, and 4 incomparably powerful auras emerged from the shattered ground. Countless figures walked out from the shattered ground, and an endless ancient aura filled the void between heaven and earth. This is... In the killing formation, He Tian could not help but be dumbfounded when he saw this scene. This was a war soldier from ancient times, sleeping in the ancestral vein of the earth. After Baowu City fell under the control of the mysterious Saint Emperor, these ancient war soldiers sleeping in the ancestral vein of the earth also woke up. These ancient war soldiers could not be compared to the war soldiers that had fought against He Tian's killing formation for so long. These were the real ancient war soldiers, and they were incomparably powerful. When these 4 groups of war soldiers appeared, their life force swept across the sky and the earth. Such a movement could not be hidden. At this moment, many forces already knew that a drastic change had occurred in the Shaman land. Especially the 3 dynasties of the Middle Earth. Many royal experts had already appeared outside the Shaman land with the help of the teleportation formation. At this moment, chaotic divine light rushed out from the Shaman land from time to time, but no one dared to enter. Barging into the Shaman land at this time was undoubtedly courting death. What's going on? Why is there such a huge change in the Shaman land? It's the work of that mysterious force. The heavenly soldiers and generals. What a grand show. Some of the older members of the royal family cultivated the divine eyes and saw the changes in the Shaman land. They saw He Tian controlling the killing formation and fighting against the countless heavenly soldiers and generals. In recent years, another mysterious force had appeared in the Shaman land, and it was also spying on the Middle Earth. This was noticed by the experts of the 3 dynasties, but no one knew what force it was. It was only today that this mysterious force finally surfaced. Gu Fei had never been afraid of anyone. He protected himself with the mountain and river cauldron and charged towards the chaotic Tao body with his sword. He wanted to see what was so special about this so-called chaotic Tao body. It should be known that the chaotic Tao body was a kind of powerful physique in the world. It was not weaker than the martial body. If this person really grew up and mastered the chaotic Tao body, it would be enough to compete with the indestructible martial body. That's exactly what I was thinking. Let me experience the so-called martial body. The Tao body of chaos was also very powerful. He directly charged forward, drawing the great sage Gabao in his hands and shooting out an arrow. The divine arrow condensed from boundless fire essence pierced through the void. Swoosh! Gu Fei protected himself with the mountain and river cauldron and was not afraid of the powerful aura of the great sage. He slashed out with his sword and directly destroyed the incoming divine sword. Then, he pointed his sword at the chaotic Tao body. What's the use of relying on external objects? If you have the guts, don't use weapons to fight me. The chaotic Tao body soared into the sky and flew into the distance. Why not? Gu Fei directly chased after it. The 2 quickly left the battlefield and entered the starry sky. Both of them put away their weapons and directly started fighting. Here, they could attack without any scruples. Kill. Gu Fei directly strode through the void, his figure becoming somewhat illusory, emitting a terrifying aura that could shake the heavens and earth. The void beneath his feet was collapsing. The void under his feet was collapsing, and a pitch-black spatial crack spread out under his feet. Like a supreme god of war, Gu Fei pressed towards the chaotic Tao body. He was like a moving ancient divine mountain, giving people an extremely powerful and oppressive feeling. The vast and mighty power that emanated from his body shattered the void, as if the entire world could no longer contain his powerful martial body. Swoosh! Feeling the strong pressure from Gu Fei, the chaotic Tao body's head shot out a chaotic divine light, piercing towards Gu Fei. This chaotic divine light contained the Tao pattern of the Great Path, which was the embodiment of the power of the Tao. It could hurt a sage. The chaotic Tao body was probing. Gu Fei directly raised his right hand and pressed it forward. An immeasurable power emanated from his palm. The void in front of his palm suddenly shook violently. A divine light suddenly emerged and then surged forward. The beam of primal chaos divine light was annihilated by an endless stream of divine light. Gu Fei had displayed great battle prowess and directly obliterated that beam of primal chaos divine light. The chaotic Tao body had no choice but to become serious. His opponent's performance had already exceeded his expectations. The human race martial body had a great reputation in ancient times. This was not a lie. Rule the chaos. The chaotic Taoist's body let out a loud cry. An endless chaotic divine light rushed out of his body. The entire void seemed to have turned into chaos in an instant. The chaotic Tao body seemed to be opening the sky, and the world was sinking. The chaotic light filled every inch of the void, and the entire starry sky seemed to be devoured by the chaos. The whole world was shaking. Above the sky, numerous chaotic patterns appeared, like a boundless magic net, covering the sky and the earth. This was the killing move of the chaotic Tao body. Heaven and earth were sealed by the chaos. Gu Fei had no way to retreat, and could only passively accept this move of the chaotic Tao body. At this moment, the shaman land was turned into ruins. He Tian launched the killing formation without caring about the cost. Countless undying soldiers died, and an endless amount of soul power was devoured by the killing formation. The soul power of all living beings was transformed into endless combat power. He Tian's killing formation devoured all the power in the world and raised its power to the limit. This was a power that surpassed the great saint level. Even the 4 groups of ancient soldiers turned pale. Up until now, both sides had suffered casualties, but the Saint Emperor's side had suffered more than He Tian's. The 100,000 celestial soldiers were almost crippled, and the ancient soldiers awakened from the ancestral veins of the earth were also injured. However, even at this moment, the mysterious Saint Emperor still did not show himself. Instead, an extremely powerful aura spread out from Shaman City, which had risen from the ground to the sky. This aura made everyone afraid, because it was the aura of a peerless existence. It was an existence that could dominate a region in the human realm. Preposterous! Erebus had to admit that although they could put up a fight against such an ancient inheritance, the final result would not change much. Chapter 1583. He Tian didn't want to leave just like that because he was being chased away. If He Tian couldn't take it lying down, the consequences would be dire. Without any suspense, the fierce battle began. Royal voids, demigods, saints, and even immortals and Shin King all fell. Blood sprayed across the sky. Kill! 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 The sky and earth collapsed. The entire shaman land shook, alarming countless cultivators. Several forbidden lands in the human world sent out powerful divine wills, which entered the shaman land directly. The ancient inheritance appeared before the world and displayed terrifying combat power. The human world was shaken and everyone was paying close attention. This battle was definitely the fiercest in the past century. In order to take back the shaman land, the ancient inheritance was willing to pay any price. Rumble! In the starry sky, Gu Fei and the chaotic body were also fighting. Endless chaos surged and the world seemed to have returned to the time before the chaos was created. Bam! A giant hand of chaos shrouded the heavens and earth as it slammed towards Gu Fei. Chaos Tao runes appeared on the giant hand, destroying everything in their path as they unleashed terrifying energy ripples. Whoosh! Divine light flashed between Gu Fei's eyebrows. Beams of violet light shot out continuously, destroying the void and destroying the chaotic hand. They also pierced towards the figure in the depths of the chaos. Every beam of divine light was like a heavenly sword, containing sword chi of the great path. Every beam could kill immortals and gods. This was one of the 9 secrets of the immortal path. When used by Gu Fei, it was very powerful. Primordial Spirit Sword of the Way! The chaotic body recognized this secret technique and was very shocked. This kind of sword was indestructible. Although it wasn't a true heavenly sword, it was even more terrifying than one. Boom! Suddenly, an endless amount of chaotic force surged out from the body of the chaotic way. A terrifying pressure descended upon the world like 100,000 mountains. The stars trembled, and the stars seemed like they were about to fall. Endless chaos Tao patterns condensed and sealed the primordial soul Tao sword that pierced through. This was also a killing technique, and the chaos Tao patterns suppressed the void. When the two powers collided, Gu Fei's primordial soul Tao sword and the Kate's Tao body's Tao pattern were annihilated. Chaotic body, let me see how strong you are! Gu Fei yelled and pressed forward with his right hand. Boundless chaotic true energy condensed on his fist. His fist turned into the size of a hill and smashed towards the chaotic Taoist body. Although he didn't have a chaotic Taoist body, he had cultivated chaotic true power. Gu Fei's true power was constantly transforming. This kind of power was constantly transforming into the most primitive power. Chapter 1584. Please remember the domain name of this website. The entire land of shamans was filled with divine light, and the essence energy of the earth rose. The grand scheme laid down thousands of years ago had finally appeared before everyone's eyes. Everyone was stunned. Such a big move was beyond everyone's imagination. It was too terrifying. 100,000 miles of the sorcerer's land had turned into a killing trap. It was especially so for West Earth. The essence energy of the entire land was boiling as if it had been ignited and was being devoured by the 100,000 miles of shaman land. What? Someone is scheming against West Earth's Buddhism! Someone is scheming against West Earth! No one wasn't shocked. Such a result was enough to shock the world. It had to be known that Buddhism had stood in West Earth for countless years. Not only had it not been destroyed in the long river of time, it had also gradually become stronger. The vast majority of the millions and millions of living beings in West Earth believed in Buddhism. This was something that no power in the human world could compare to. In the human world, other than Buddhism, no power could dominate a region. In the endless years, it wasn't that West Earth's Buddhism hadn't encountered great calamities, but in the end, they were all resolved. The inheritance of Buddhism had never been severed. And now, someone was actually targeting West Earth's Buddhism and setting up such a shocking killing trap. What kind of power was this for it to be so powerful? Boom! At the moment Yanwu's city was completely revived, a vast wave of Buddhist power swept out from West Earth. The entire land and the entire sky trembled. In the void, there seemed to be a supreme Buddha chanting scriptures. A peaceful Buddhist aura spread through the world, causing the desolate aura of the shaman land to fade. Buddhism finally felt that something was wrong. On the Spirit Mountain in the depths of West Earth, a supreme Buddhist weapon was reviving, and a wisp of extreme Tao aura appeared in West Earth. Sensing this extreme Tao aura, everyone was shocked to the extreme. Buddhism had actually used extreme Tao Buddhist weapon. This wasn't a small matter. The appearance of Buddhism's power greatly reduced the pressure on He Tian. He controlled the killing formation and rushed out 10,000 miles in one breath. He rushed out before the shaman land was completely sealed. Wherever this fiend controlled the killing formation, everyone retreated in panic. This deathly aura was simply too powerful, and everyone's expression changed. This was a ruthless character. He actually dared to challenge the ancient inheritance. This was not something that an ordinary person would dare to do. This required great courage and resolution. Kill! The 100,000 celestial soldiers and 2,000 ancient soldiers followed closely behind He Tian as they charged out of the shaman land. Their will to fight was monstrous, and a terrifying aura spread in all directions. Especially the 2,000 ancient soldiers that had been nourished by the Earth Ancestors' vein for countless years. Each of them emitted a monstrous aura. Within Gu Zhanbing's body, there seemed to be a hidden dragon. The essence of the ancestral Earth Meridian gathered in their bodies, forming an extremely powerful force. These ancient soldiers were incomparably valiant. The strength of their corporeal bodies could be compared to almighty realm warriors. Although there weren't many of them, they were all soldiers that had been through hundreds of battles. This ancient soldier was definitely one of the trump cards of this mysterious ancient inheritance. It was left behind for the future. Once it appeared, it would be able to conquer all directions. Everyone who witnessed the combat power of this ancient soldier felt their hearts palpitate. Even the royal family of the three eternal empires that had been passed down for 10,000 years were very fearful. "How dare you! We haven't even played yet, and you're already done!" He Tian was enraged. He wanted to leave, but the other party didn't let him. He was already filled with anger. He gritted his teeth and spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood. He was risking his life. He Tian used his own blood as a guide and completely activated the great sage's divine diagram below the formation platform. Countless Tao patterns intertwined on the diagram. Rumble! The diagram emitted a monstrous wave of energy. The divine diagram and the killing formation's inscriptions fused together. The two complemented each other and pushed the killing formation's power to its peak. The combination of the killing formation and the great sage's divine diagram produced a power that surpassed the great sage's. The heavens trembled and the stars in the sky looked as though they were about to fall. No one dared to go near the killing formation. The killing formation was enveloped by a peerless killing intent. If one barged in, there would only be death. No one wanted to commit suicide. The undead army in the killing formation became even more ferocious. They continued to fight against the celestial soldiers that were chasing after them. The 3 undying emperors were even more ferocious. "Roar!" the corpse king roared. His voice shook the heavens and earth. He grabbed a general with his bare hands and tore the general in half. Fresh blood splattered on the corpse king's body. That was the Shin king's blood. It contained a huge amount of essence. Strands of blood quickly seeped into the corpse king's body. This scene was extremely strange. The corpse king was devouring the Shin king's blood. Awesome! The corpse king was shrouded in a bloody mist. His corpse chi started to retract. However, this undying emperor seemed to be even more powerful and terrifying. He seemed to be able to break through the shackles of cultivation at any time. After this battle, the surviving undead creatures had obtained great benefits. Especially the evil corpse king, the netherworld emperor, and the undying emperor. Their cultivation had reached a bottleneck. It would be very difficult for them to advance further. But now, after devouring a large amount of life force from the celestial soldiers, the shackles of cultivation of the 3 undying emperors began to loosen. There were signs of a breakthrough. 4 powerful figures rushed towards the 3 undying emperors. They were 4 ancient generals. Although they had just awakened, their fighting strength was monstrous. Clang! A middle-aged general held a divine sword and charged towards the evil corpse emperor. He fought with the evil corpse emperor, while the other 3 ancient generals fought against the emperor of the underworld and the undead emperor. Swish! The bone blade in the undead emperor's hand turned into a ray of white light that enveloped the 3 ancient war generals, displaying his unparalleled battle prowess. Humph! One of the ancient generals sneered. This fellow actually wanted to fight against the 3 great experts on his side by himself. He simply didn't know the difference between life and death. The general held a saber and directly rushed towards the undying emperor. The saber in his hand burst out thousands of saber lights, and divine patterns of the great path appeared on its surface. This was a divine saber. The 2 streaks of blade light clashed together in an instant, exploding with a powerful light that lit up the entire world. Even the sun in the sky seemed to dim in that instant. The undying emperor fought against this ancient general, while the other 2 ancient generals were intercepted by the netherworld emperor. Swish! The netherworld emperor instantly transformed into thousands of shadows. The void was densely packed with shadows of the netherworld emperor. No one knew which shadow was the real body of the netherworld emperor. Just as He Tian was going all out, the battle between Gu Fei and the chaotic Tao body had also reached a white-hot stage. Both of them were fighting with all their might. Bang! Gu Fei punched the shoulder of the chaotic Tao body. The entire shoulder of the chaotic Tao body was badly mutilated. Even the bones were coming out. At the moment when the chaotic Tao body was sent flying, the chaotic Tao body's right leg had already swept Gu Fei's waist. This kick caused cracks to appear on Gu Fei's spine. The two figures instantly crossed each other and flew tens of thousands of feet away at the same time. For the latest and fastest chapters, please log in. Reading is a pleasure. I suggest you collect it.